Welcome, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs. I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Architects, and I'm so happy to be here with you today. Today, we're here to ask any type of cloud architect career questions and answers you have. Maybe you desire to be a cloud architect, or you desire to be a cloud engineer, or you're interested in automation careers. And really, what we want to do here at Go Cloud Architects, Go Cloud Careers is really guide you. See, I remember 20 some years ago when I started my tech career, and it was a fun time when I began my tech career. But I remember I made a lot of mistakes, and those mistakes cost me a lot of money. I had wasted about $20,000 on certification training that didn't get me hired, and that was back in 1998. And when I wasn't getting hired, I started asking the certification providers and everybody, and all they recommended was more and more certifications. And you know what? That wasn't what I needed to do at all. I had spoken to some recruiters. I had spoken to some people in the industry. They told me what I needed. I filled in the gaps and I got hired. Now, 25 years in the industry, I have interviewed 5,000 people for tech jobs. I've been advising people to get their best tech jobs for over 2 decades. And I've been working in this industry for 2.5 decades and then some. So I just love to share my experience to make your cloud architect journey or solution architect journey so much easier. So the reason we hold these sessions and we come online 2, 3 times a week is so we can come here with you and answer any questions. Now, a couple of things that I want to let you know. On Friday, we're going to have Daryl Proctor. Daryl manages a really good team of customer success managers and executives over at Palo Alto Networks, and he's a fantastic leader. I mean, really a fantastic leader. And I've known him for 20 some years, and I'm going to bring him on the channel to basically share his experiences with you to help boost your career. Going to let you know that there is a special announcement that we are going to be making on November 1st. And this is something that's going to really help you get your first cloud architect job or your first cloud engineer job or any tech job in general that you desire. To learn more about that, text cloud hired to 22828 and we will notify you. Or download any of our free ebooks or join any of our free webinars and you'll be notified. But the simplest way is just to text cloud hired to 22828. So while we're here and we're waiting for people to ask questions from the audience, I just wanted to make sure we all talk about, why are these tech careers great and what is it so special about a cloud architect? Yesterday, we made a short video for that, and Jesse from my team will put a link of the short video. But people come to me to become architects. I've been an architect for 2.5 decades, an enterprise architect, a network architect, a cloud architect, a business architect, and they're all the greatest jobs in the world. The key difference from architects over engineering is the engineers are focused on building, and we need them, and they are really good, smart people. We architects are focused more on the transformation of the business. We start with the business, and we try and figure out, how we can optimize the business through technology. But pretty much those are the two differences. So, do any of you out there have any questions? I've been talking for a few minutes, just trying to see if anybody had some questions while YouTube is notifying everybody. So we'll see a lot more people from the YouTube notifications in a few minutes or so. But if you've got any questions, please answer some. Does anybody out there have any questions? I'm looking in the audience. I see a Jesse. I see a Percy Duckworth, a Digital Palmer. Do any of you guys have any questions? And if so, and while we're waiting for you guys to answer questions, if you can list the city or the country that you're in right now, it would be pretty interesting. I'll start. I am in Port St. Lucie, Florida right now. Where are you guys all located? Hello, NGWE. It's so good to see you again. Haven't seen you in a little while, but it's definitely wonderful to see you. So, any questions for me? You're from Chennai, India. That's wonderful. Aqua, you're in England. We the Unleashed are in Singapore. This is fantastic. So love having some people from so far over the world. Manassas, Virginia. Wow, that's pretty terrific. Singapore. Love having such a group from so many places. It's wonderful. Cambodia. Wow, that's kind of interesting. NGWE. Even Southeast Asia. So absolutely wonderful. Damarla from India. Wonderful. So you folks out there, is there anything you're struggling with in your careers for which you're looking for guidance? Getting promoted, getting hired, any of these kinds of things? Okay, the first question I see is from Omar Farouk. Nice to see you, Omar. Hi, Mike. Nice to see you again. Is there a better way to learn about Azure, about the Azure Solutions pricing? Here's my thing. When it comes to pricing, the authoritative source on pricing is actually the vendor themselves. So I always go to the vendor to look at pricing. And here's why I do it. Pricing is very, very dynamic. And the reason it's dynamic is it's going to be based upon supply and demand curves. If there's a tremendous amount of supply, the price will go down. If there's a tremendous amount of demand, the price will go up. And these things constantly change. And you can also look at what happens, the impact of competition. Competition increases the available supply of cloud computing power. As the available supply of cloud computing power goes up, ultimately the price of this various computing power also goes down. So, these are the things that you should think about. So, for example, it used to be that one of the main cloud providers charges you per day. And then all of a sudden there's a new cloud provider that charges per minute or per second. And all of a sudden now all the providers do. So the point being is this pay as you go is really dynamic. So when it comes to me and I'm looking for pricing, I always go to the manufacturer source of information. In fact, when I'm actually looking for things, I also go to the manufacturer source. Since they made the product, they know the pricing, and the pricing could change weekly, daily. Definitely do I recommend going to the source. So that's what I do, Omar. Victor, you're in Nigeria. That's fantastic. Actually, we've got a lot of wonderful people with Nigeria, Cameroon, actually South Africa. Actually been doing a lot of work in Ethiopia these days too, which is also kind of interesting. So welcome. The next question is from, oops, I'm trying to drag my mouse over here. Ian Sana. How do you carve the path of a cybersecurity specialist who wants to transition to a cloud? That's actually what I deal with a lot. So I think you have to figure out what is the cloud first. And this is where most people actually go wrong. Most people look at the cloud as this miraculous entity out there that's floating out there in the ether. But it's not. It's no different than a network in a data center that's been virtualized. That's it. So everything in the network in the data center is the same thing that it is in the cloud. So Ian Sana, here's my perspective. For the good security architects, and I worked as a good security architect for a while, you have to really understand that network in the data center. You have to understand the networking, the routers, the switches, the routing protocols, the firewalls, the IDS, IPS systems. This is network data center stuff. The load balancers, the storage, the databases, all this stuff, this network data center security stuff and applications and infrastructure is the same stuff that's on the cloud. So when I take, and I don't know whether you want to be a cloud engineer or a cloud engineer or a cloud architect. So transition to the cloud isn't enough for me to go on. But I will tell you this, and if you tell me exactly what kind of transition to the cloud, I will give you some very specifics. But no matter what you want to do in any one of these careers, coming from the security background, you realistically speaking need to learn the cloud, which means learning the network and the data center. Now, if you want to be a cloud security specialist on the cloud, which is a really great place to be when you've got a security background, it's pretty much the same job that you always did. The only difference is in a data center, we can get good and robust in security. We can bring in our firewalls, have somebody pop them in the rack for us, cable them up, firewalls. We can run high availability protocols with heartbeats between each other, and we have enterprise grade robustness. Now, when we get to the cloud, we can't exactly go to the cloud provider's data center and rack one of our really good firewalls. We don't have that option. So we've got two options on the cloud. We can use these cloud native-y things, and you could use that. But if you really need security, you're not going to use any of these cloud native-y things like an AWS WAF. You're going to get something big and robust from a Palo Alto or a Checkpoint or a Cisco, or a Fortinet, somebody that really specializes in security. So what you would do if you were a cloud security engineer or a cloud security architect is half of what you have to do is overcome the weaknesses of the cloud. So for example, when we run firewalls in the cloud, we run the firewalls that are basically sitting on virtual machines. And then we use load balancers like network load balancers or like gateway load balancers, which is basically a network load balancer with a new name that's designed to load balance between network devices. These kind of things are what I do. So if you tell me exactly the career you want, I can give you a transition. For example, if you told me you wanted to be on a cloud, you wanted to move to the cloud to be an architect, I would tell you, in addition to the network and the data center, you would need to really focus on your business acumen, your communication skills, your executive presence, your emotional intelligence, your business writing, because those are architect skills and they are every bit as important as the tech. Now, if we're talking about more engineering, now that changes everything. Because if you're telling me you wanted to do more cloud engineering things, again, you still should know the network and the data center. But here you got to know how to build it. You got to know how to configure it. You might need to code if you're a cloud engineer. You might need to do some scripting. You're going to need to do some automation. Still, I recommend, if you want a really great career, to work on the executive presence, emotional intelligence, communication skills, presentation skills, because it'll have a massive impact on your career progression and your salary. But it's really impossible to be an architect without focusing on those leadership skills, business acumen, emotional intelligence. And you can still be a great engineer without it. So, Sana, I hope I answered your question on how to go from a cybersecurity specialist to the cloud. But if you really want to tell me exactly which route you would like or which career you'd like, you could do it. But when I build cloud architects, or I build any technology professional, I look to do the following: maximize their career, maximize their salary, and maximize how fast they go from intro to expert. And in your particular case, you've got a security background. So when I look at me, I'm a CCIE. And I'm one of the original Cisco certified internet experts, back when it was a 2-day exam and everybody failed it. So, that's kind of where I'm from. So I'm from this big hardcore networking background. So do you know where I'm most valuable? I'm most valuable as a cloud network architect, not a cloud architect, because of that background. And for example, if you've got a security background and you are a cloud security specialist or cloud security architect, wow, you're going to be there. So that's kind of what I actually like. So how do you become a cloud security something? Please tell me which career you want, and I will give you an exact roadmap. So tell me cloud security engineer, tell me cloud security architect, and I will give you the exact roadmap. And I just need that information so I know exactly what you want. While we're waiting for that information, if you're having a good time, if you could smack that like button and if you're subscribe and hit the bell if you're not a member, because we've got a lot of free stuff coming up, including some specialty leaders and speakers I'd love you to hear from. So subscribe and hit the bell to be notified. Darmela, how would we pursue a cloud DevOps engineer role? And what is the best CI/CD tools? Well, Darmarella, how do you pursue the best cloud DevOps engineer roles? I'm going to actually have something for you and a complete how to get your first DevOps program ready in the next, I'd say, 2 months. In fact, I believe these cloud DevOps engineering roles are really, really important. One of the things that I will tell you is you've got two sides of things on DevOps. You've got your traditional DevOps tools, Jenkins, Spinnaker, those kind of tools. And those kind of tools you have to learn. And all of those tools that off of the cloud, we would learn off of the cloud to be a DevOps engineer, they're the ones you need to understand on the cloud too. Nothing really changes there. Now, where does things get really cool for DevOps? So you've got a cloud architect like me that actually designs an end-to-end solution. And then it comes time to go build the solution. Now, I can have some really great cloud engineer build, set up a virtual machine, a virtual machine, a virtual machine, a virtual machine. Or I can have a DevOps engineer that's got some great coding skills and really amazing automation skills. Use a tool like Terraform. So while Terraform isn't exactly a DevOps tool, when you're dealing with cloud DevOps, those DevOps engineers use Terraform, and it is amazing. That infrastructure as code. I can design something, and a DevOps engineer can build stuff in an automated way. One person that could take 10 or 15 people's jobs and do it by themselves at that kind of speed. So That's what I would do. I would make sure that I know all the traditional things like Jenkins and Spinnaker, and then I would focus on Terraform. Now, CloudFormation is an AWS tool. They kind of can do what Terraform can do, but it's only on AWS. And the reality is, in today's world, there's no such thing as a single cloud. And the vendors that are doing single clouds, or the customers that are doing single clouds, know it's a problem, and they're getting out of single cloud to multi-cloud. So tools like CloudFormation, I wouldn't waste my time with. I would focus my time on Terraform, and I would be a great Terraform person. I'd learn all those Jenkins and Spinnaker, and there's a list of tools. In fact, we actually have a video. Jesse can put the link down, where we talk about the difference between SysOps and DevOps, and he can pop the link to that in this chat box. Now, it's going to take him a few minutes because he's trying to moderate conferences, moderate this discussion and put things on and off the screen, but I'll have someone from my team do that for you. So, Damerla, I hope you can do that. Plus, in 3 months, we will have, or less, we will have a how to get your first DevOps job program. It's going to be rely on my 20 years experience in getting people hired, my specialties in interviews and behavioral science skills, and executive presence development and hiring managers and other things that I'm good at, along with my good friend Sandeep Das, who's a top-notch DevOps engineer. So together we're making it, and within 3 months we're going to have it, and I'm super, super, super excited about it. Jesse, if you want to bring in the next question. Wealth Unleashed. Is being a functional consultant a good stepping stone to being a solutions architect? Wealth Unleashed, I don't know what a functional consultant actually is. So if you can provide some insight, maybe tell me in a sentence, what does a functional consultant do? I've been a management consultant and a strategy consultant, which are basically two sides of the same coin, but I don't know what a functional consultant is. So if you can let me know what that is, I'll definitely be thrilled to answer that question. But generally speaking, any kind of consulting is really a good transition, because consulting, where we start with the customer, we ask some questions, we figure out their pain points, we do an analysis, and we make recommended changes. That's exactly what we do as architects. But I don't know what a functional consultant is. So if you let me know what a functional consultant is, I'll be able to answer that. But in general, anybody with a consulting background automatically becomes a great architect. Jesse, you want to bring in the next one while we wait? You're more than welcome, Omar. Emmanuel, what do I think about a criminal justice specialist of more than 5 years changing career to cloud architect? I think it's wonderful. Now, Emmanuel, I think you got to look at it from my perspective. I practiced internal medicine, and 6 months later, I was a lead architect. I think that you should do what makes you happy. I think that the most important thing in your life and my life and everyone's life is that we enjoy our lives. I practiced medicine for a while. I can tell you, life is temporary. And if there's something that you love, I think you should go after it. And I think you should, basically say, this is what I want to do. I think you should basically say, this is my destination. I think you should look at your starting point and build a map on how to get to your destination and get there as fast as possible. There is no reason you can't go from criminal justice to cloud architect. Here's what it takes. It takes deep desire in your heart. It takes mental toughness, because it's not going to be easy every day to go and read all the things and watch the videos that are necessary and learn. But you know what, Emmanuel? You do that, you will be successful. I have seen countless people transition careers, and I've done it myself. And I'm telling you, if you put your heart, your mind, and all your efforts in a line, you can and will be a great cloud architect. So that's what I recommend. If this is your passion, I recommend you go for it. If you want to train with us, we've got a program, and I can easily get you there. If you want to train on your own, I recommend you go there. Whatever the case is, just go after your dreams. I mean that. Anytime that you want to do something, you can do it. I'll give you 2 examples. I was in a martial arts accident about 10 years ago. It took me 6 to 8 hours of physical therapy every single day for a period of many, many years, just to be able to walk up and down the stairs in my house. It takes me 3 hours every day when I get out of bed to be able to do some physical therapy things on my foot, just to be able to walk down the stairs, eat breakfast before I can even be online. And you know what? It is the greatest privilege and honor of my life to be online and share my experiences with you. So I can share the lessons of my life with you. But just so you can see, I was told I'd never walk again by 13 doctors, and I was able to do it. So when you've got a big task like this, like becoming a cloud architect, you can do it. I know you can, and I want you to be successful. So build yourself a plan. Map out every step that's necessary on that plan. And if you're one of our students, we'll help you build that plan. And then each day, chip away at that plan. And when you chip away at that plan, each time you accomplish something, you take a celebration and you celebrate that victory. And then the next day, you go back until you get to the next major step in your plan. You celebrate that victory. The journey of 1,000 miles was started with a single step. Go after it, Emmanuel. You will become a great cloud architect. And I have full confidence that you can do it. I've seen it happen thousands of times. Be what you want to be what you love, and have a fantastic career and a fantastic life. And if you'd like us to help you along the way, we'd be happy to do so. That's my recommendations, Emmanuel. Aqua. Hello, Mike. How would you propose we approach a cloud migration with clients that gives them confidence that we are a trusted advisor? Aqua, that's really a great question. And Aqua, I know you, and I know what it's like to communicate and speak with you. When I hear you speak, I'm confident. But why am I so confident when I hear you speak? And what's really necessary to make the client comfortable that you are in a position to be able to assist them? Well, first, if you're going to migrate stuff from the network and the data center to the cloud, that stuff is network and data center technology. So you must be able to have a good knowledge of that network and the data center, because if you don't, you won't be able to know what to do to move it to the cloud. And not only will they not know how to do, it's going to be obvious when someone speaks to that client that they don't know. Because if someone's response is, we're just going to stick it in S3, but they don't understand object storage and the limitations of object storage and the types of storage that it's coming from on the data center side and the transmission times over a network, they're not going to feel confident in that person and they're not going to want them. So realistically speaking, the way to approach this is as follows. First, get your fundamentals down, and Aqua, I know you have them. 2, get that executive presence up. So when you walk in, you command the room. We all know somebody with executive presence, and a lot of it, they walk in a room and you can feel them. You know they're there. You know they're in charge and they've never said a word. So work on development of that executive presence. The next part of it is those leadership skills and that business acumen. You have to know enough about the business and have that leadership skills so you can go to the CEO of the company you're working with and you can advise them. So again, lots of business acumen. How do you advise someone in an area you're not skilled? It all goes back to the soft skills, emotional intelligence, executive presence. And then you must have extremely good presentation skills. Now, Aqua, I know how good your communication skills are because I've had the chance, and I'm really happy about it, to speak to you on numerous occasions, and they're really solid. But that is the key. That, and there's really one more thing that's really essential. That customer needs to know, and I know they'll know it from speaking to you, that you care about that customer. I'm going to tell you, in my 25 years worth of architecture careers, I have told lots of customers, no, this is not the right solution for you. In fact, I've worked for companies and the company proposed something and the customer asked me, is this right? And I said no. And you know what? Not only was the company not mad at me, but when a customer says, is this the right architecture? And you tell them no, the customer then says, what should I do instead? Because they know you care. So I'd say part of it is, again, and I know this about you is good and strong and solid, but you've got to have some integrity, which you do, and you've got to have the world know that you're trustworthy. You do all these things and clients will trust you, because what will happen is you'll work with one client and you'll build a name that's so strong. People like me that have been around for a while, we get called, you help this CIO, you help this CEO, could you come help me? And you're going to build a brand. So Akko, that's why I'm big on building brands. That's why I'm big on publishing documentations and big on using social media to try and let the world know that you're there. The better your brand, the more trust people have in you. People have trust in BMW. They have trust in Mercedes. Why? Because the brand. People buy an Apple. It might be 3 times more expensive than a competitive product, but why do people buy it? It's the brand. So raise your brand value. People will always trust you. Now, hope I answered your question there, Aqua. I do know that I owe you a call back, and I'm going to be in the car today, so I'm going to give you a call today just to let you know. So should be around 8 p.m. your 7 p.m. your time, somewhere in there. I should be around the time I should be able to do so. So Jesse, if you'd like to bring in the next question. Vishal Varma, right now you're working as an Active Directory and Exchange online admin. Can I be able to move your career to the cloud? Of course you can, Vishal Varma. Anybody can go to the cloud. Anybody. The fact that you're already working in tech makes it easier. I had somebody with me. He was a really fine young man. He never worked in tech in his life, and 3 weeks later, he was a technical account manager at AWS. Now, that is a rare thing, but it happens all the time. But I got to tell you, I didn't start in tech. Not only did I not start in tech, my first tech job was a senior network engineer, and I was promoted to lead architect at the world's largest ISP in our team within 6 months of starting in tech. So Vishal Varma, of course you can. Now, working with Active Directory is going to give you some good knowledge of authentication, authorization, and accounting, also known as IAM or Identity Access Management, which is hugely helpful. The fact that you're also working with Microsoft Exchange means you've got some knowledge of email. You probably have some knowledge of, of DNS and MX records and those kind of things, which is also good. It also means you have a knowledge of an operating system, and you probably know a little bit about IP addressing. Just that is a huge start. So Vishal Varma, I got to tell you, when it comes down to it, the easiest people to move to the cloud are the people with an infrastructure background, a Linux background, a network background, a data center background. But I transition software developers all the time. Now, I got to tell you, that's the biggest transition in the tech world, but I transition them all the time, and they're highly successful. People from your background on the infrastructure side or the easiest side, the software development side or the hardest side, but that doesn't matter. We've got our software developers, and they get hired every single day too for some really great jobs. So does not matter your background. All that matters is that you get the skill that's necessary for your job. And like I said, Vishal Varma, I don't know which job you want in the cloud, but you could take any job in the cloud. You could just do the same Active Directory and Exchange on the cloud that you're doing right now. Or you can go to the cloud and you could do some cloud engineering, building the things that people like me design. You could become a cloud architect. You can be whatever you want. So tell me what you want to be, and I will tell you how to get there. So Jesse, if you want to look for the next question over there, if you guys are having fun, if you can hit the like button and type #CloudHired so I know you're there. NGWE, can you open an AWS account using your name and link with a bank or credit card that's not having your information? Probably not. I've never tried to create an AWS account without using real legitimate information, so I don't know. But generally speaking, I would assume no. Not sure why you would necessarily want to do that unless you're in a position where you're in a country where the credit cards can't be used by another provider. But other than that, it probably shouldn't be an issue. But in most cases, yeah, you're going to even for you, yeah. So it shouldn't be an issue. If it is an issue, my recommendation is to do the following: go download AWS Linux. You can download it as a virtual machine, and at least you can do some of the practice things with AWS Linux and play with some of these environments in your own computer in a VMware environment. So that might be something you can actually do to at least start with, working with that. But realistically speaking, for an AWS account, you probably are going to need to use a legitimate credit card. I wish I had a better solution than that. I don't know if you're in one of the countries where it's hard to use your credit card, but for the most part, I think they have to match. But I'm not an expert on that. So, Jesse, if you can bring in the next question. Cloud security is where you want to be. Ayansana, that is great. Please tell me what type of cloud, and I will, but please tell me what kind of job you actually want. Do you want to be the person that designs the security, or do you want to be the person that builds the security? That is the ultimate place. When I know that, then it becomes very, very easy for me to tell you what route. But the training for an architect like me is the exact opposite direction as the training for an engineer. And if I give you architect training and you want to be a cloud security engineer, you'll never get hired. If I give you cloud security training and you want to be a cloud security architect, you won't get hired because they're very different. So if you tell me exactly what you want, I will give you a roadmap. I just don't want to guide you in properly. I want to make sure we really help you. Jesse, yeah, soft skills sell. In fact, every one of my students that gets hired, they're like, Mike, you told me it was 50% tech, 50% leadership, soft skills, emotional intelligence, executive presence. They're like, Mike, you should have told me it's 70% soft skills, emotional intelligence, executive presence, leadership, not 50. And I say, well, in my world, it's 50-50. The problem is for my engineers, it feels like 75, 80% that is soft skills, but it's really about 50-50. But soft skills are critical for this job. This is a job. It's not a behind the desk job. It's a customer facing job. Customer facing job equals soft skills. The better your soft skills, the more you earn. The better your soft skills, the more you get hired. The better your soft skills, the more customers want to do what you want. The better the soft skills, the more emotionally intelligent, the better you raise the energy in the room, the better you make the work environment, and the more people like you. So, Jesse, totally agree with you. Soft skills sell. Darmarla Gopichan, different than containerization, what is serverless computing? So, Darmarla, serverless computing is when you run something in your provider's environment and you don't physically install it on a server. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still running on a server. It's just you don't see the server, it's hidden from you. So some examples of serverless computing would be like a Lambda function in AWS or an App Engine function type thing in the Google Compute environment, in the Google Cloud environment. Realistically speaking, it's when you just upload your code and theoretically it works. So this is for little mini things. Now, the next thing that you realistically can think of in terms of serverless is, let's say you have an object storage bucket, like an S3 bucket or a Microsoft Blog bucket or a Google Cloud Storage bucket. In many cases, you might, if you have static content in that bucket, you might want to make a static website. So basically speaking, you could stick a content delivery network directly in front of, say, an object storage environment and have a statically hosted website. That is also considered serverless. So you put, for example, if you had a website, your index.html page and all of your assets and all of your things directly inside of an S3 bucket. Say if you're on AWS, you put CloudFront or the AWS Content Delivery Network, and poof, you've got a really wonderfully functioning serverless static website. So those are two examples. Now, I want you to understand, when you go serverless, there are architectural trades. We have two options. Option one is we lift and shift our things. So if I take a virtual machine from the data center and just move it to a virtual machine on the cloud, everything is going to work perfectly. And do you know what it cost me to take my virtual machine from the data center to the cloud? Nothing. I just convert the virtual machine file and move it over. Now, when I go to serverless, I have to literally refactor and recode every single one of my applications. So going from a traditional virtual machine to serverless could be really expensive for an organization. Now, here's the thing. When you go serverless, and you go to the cloud provider after you've reconfigured your code, if you don't like the cloud provider, you're in trouble. You can't do much. If the cloud provider raises your rates, you're in trouble. You can't do much because you're going to have to spend a fortune to refactor your code to get it back to your data center. So serverless does offer some things. No operating systems to manage, nice and simple. Scalability beyond belief, nice and simple. And flexibility, nice and simple. And in some cases, lower cost, nice and simple, until you need to move your applications off. So every technology that we talk about, every one of them has its strengths and weaknesses. Serverless promotes pretty much unlimited scalability and simplicity and elegance. Serverless also means vendor locked in and lots of expenses to move to the cloud. On the cloud, it might be cheaper, but if you have to leave, it's going to be real hard. So these are your architectural considerations. Jesse, if you want to bring in the next one. Captain Omaro, you're coming from a visual design, UX design background, but you love designing systems, business and enterprise. Fantastic. That is the perfect cloud architect, solution architect kind of background. I think it's fantastic. How do I pursue an enterprise architect career as a beginner? Well, I think you need to go more towards an intermediate architect before you get on the way to the enterprise architect. So, for example, you realistically speaking, probably, unless you've got a management consulting background, and if you have a management consulting background, you're used to starting with the CEO, You're used to asking the questions, meeting with the C-suite of people, meeting with the executives, and being able to analyze someone's background. But for the enterprise architects, because the enterprise architects like me, so look at it this way: if you've got the cloud engineer, that's the most technical, and you have the solution, the technical solution architect, that's the second most technical, followed by the solution architect, that's 50% technical, 50% business, followed by the cloud architect, that's realistically 60% business, 40% technical, followed by the enterprise architect, and this is a role that I enjoy, which is probably 30% technical, 70% business. What do you have to have? You have to have a big business background. So if you don't have an MBA, you're going to need those MBA skills. You're going to need that kind of business acumen because you're going to be doing a lot of ROI modeling. You're going to have to understand business process re-engineering, what people do and how they do it. And I think you can learn it, and I think it's a great thing. So, business process re-engineering, it's a position of learning the people, processes, and the technologies, those Michael Porter kind of things. Those are the things you kind of deal with. So there are kind of those things that we do. So for these positions, you want to do enterprise architecture. First, I'd say you've got to learn the systems. Those systems are, again, the network and the data center systems. Those are the systems organizations use. So you've got to understand that, because those are your tools for transformation. Is it better connectivity that's your tool for transformation? Is it better speed? Is it get the business closer to the customers? Is there ways to improve sales? These are the kind of things that you need to think about. Can you improve employee productivity? So Captain Enroll, you've got to have the business acumen to know what all that means and know how to do that. So that is step one for the enterprise architect. Step two is having the technical competency in the network and the data center to know what all these technologies are that you're going to use, because these technologies are going to be your tools for business transformation. So that would be the way I would do it. Make sure you've got lots of business acumen training, lots of executive presence training, lots of emotional intelligence training, moderate amounts of technology training, and a lot of business training. These are the kind of things that are there. Now, when we start dealing with these systems, when we're dealing with solution architects and cloud architects, we can often get away without a degree. When we start moving into these enterprise architecture roles, we're typically dealing with degrees because of the business requirements that typically are looking for someone with an MBA or someone that typically has at least a bachelor's degree. But you know what? I train enterprise architects in my cloud architect career development program. I train cloud architects and solution architects the same way. What's different is where we bias the training. For that enterprise architect, we need a lot more business, a lot more ROI modeling. Those are the ways to get there. And I got to tell you, I've done all these architecture jobs, and the enterprise architect and the business architect are my two favorite. I think it's a great way. I think you can do a great job, but those would be the steps along the way, Captain Enroll. If you'd like to work with us, we've got a program and we would love to get you there. If not, at least you know what to do. Hi, Cedro. As a cloud security architect, CISSP or CCSP? Cedro, that's a tough one. I'm biased to say the CISSP over the CCSP, and here's the reason. Everything that we do as cloud security architects is the same as we did as a regular security architect. Nothing changes other than, Cedro, as you probably know, we've got to work around the weaknesses of the cloud, meaning like we can't go stick a firewall there. So we've got to use like load balancers to load balance virtual appliances. And we don't have direct access to the switches. So we can't do things like layer 2 ACLs and MAC address authentication and QoS. So we're really handicapped, I'd say 25% of the security on the cloud compared to the data center. But if you know how to secure the data center, then you can know how to secure the cloud. Albeit you'll have less tools, but you'll still have some good tools. And I generally prefer the CISSP, and here's why. I like to get further away from the cloud and deeper into the industry. What most people don't understand is the cloud is just a network and a data center that's been virtualized. And the CISSP is a little bit more global, a little bit more architecture-like. So for a cloud security architect, I would be looking to combine something like an Azure expert or an AWS certified solutions architect professional or a Google professional cloud architect, one of those three with a CISSP. Typically speaking, that would be what I would do. But I also really like the CCSP, but I recommend the CISSP, and that's the one that I did in my career, and it was pretty helpful for me. So those are the ones that I typically recommend. And Jesse, you can bring in the next one if you desire. Emmanuel, wonderful. You're welcome. Victor William, do you need cloud architect skills in order to be a DevOps architect? What advice for me to enroll in your course if you want to be a DevOps architect? Victor William, there's DevOps engineers. There's cloud architects. So, do you need cloud skills to be a DevOps engineer? If you were a DevOps engineer off of the cloud, no, you don't need cloud skills. But since most DevOps engineering programs are on the cloud, you should have some kind of cloud skills. If we wanted you to, here's our recommendations. If you wanted to be a DevOps engineer, learn those DevOps tools. Make sure, Victor Williams, if you want to be a DevOps engineer, that you're already a software developer. So I don't recommend people basically picking up a DevOps career unless you're already programmers. So Victor Williams, that's the first thing for me. A lot of people have it in their mind that all they're going to do is go take some DevOps certifications and they are going to get a DevOps job. That is really, really, really far from the truth. And I'm going to say this again. No certification other than the Cisco Certified Internet Expert will get anybody a job, although they will actually help people get an interview. But that's it. So if you trained with us, here's what we would do. We would teach you cloud architecture. We would teach you leadership skills. We would teach you executive presence, emotional intelligence, all those great things. So all of that we would teach you, but that's architecture. DevOps is more engineering. So they're not exactly the same career. So if you wanted to be an architect, we could really help you. And if you wanted to really learn the cloud and architecture and still know DevOps, that would be good. But as a rule, Victor William, my recommendation when you want to build the best career ever is that you pick a specialty and you focus everything you have on that specialty. So if you wanted to become a DevOps engineer, I'd focus 100% of my time on becoming the best DevOps engineer. If you wanted to be a cloud architect, I'd focus 100% of my time on being a cloud architect. Because these jobs are very different, I recommend you being really great at one. Now, it is advantageous to have cloud skills as a DevOps engineer. So the answer is it is advantageous. Just like it's advantageous for people like me to at least know what a CI/CD pipeline is. Now, I'm not going to do DevOps, but I still know what it is. So Victor William, my recommendation is, as much as I'd love to train you in our program, if you wanted to be a cloud architect or a solution architect, we could help you. But if you want to be a DevOps engineer, I don't think that it's in your best interest to basically buy some cloud architect program, because I think you should focus your time on DevOps engineering and be the best DevOps engineer in the world. Look, I'd love to tell you that we've got a great product for you. And if you want to be a cloud architect, I'm telling you, we have the best product on the market. But I don't have anything right now for the DevOps engineer. And I don't want to see you do architecture training to get you to become a better DevOps engineer, because they're different careers. And I want what's best for you. And what's best for you is, if you want to do DevOps. So make sure you're already a software developer first. Don't just pick DevOps out of the hat because you heard it's a good career. I know a lot of people do that. They want to actually be a DevOps engineer. They learn all the DevOps things, but they don't know enough about software development, and they're not ready to do the job. So with cloud architects, we need network and data center background. For DevOps engineers, we need a good software development background if we want them to be successful. Hope I answered your questions there, Victor. And if you give me more information, I'm happy to dive deeper into any of these things. I just want to make sure you get to the best place. Emmanuel Bosom, cloud hired. Yes, if you guys are having fun, if you can hit that cloud hired button, hit the like button, it helps signal all the algorithms and all kinds of cool things. Percy Duckworth, are there any cloud architect or engineer jobs in India for newbies? Absolutely. There are plenty of cloud architect and cloud engineer jobs in India. Now, it's interesting in India, a lot of times people actually like a little bit of an internship prior to actually hiring people. And the way we run our cloud architect career development program, the way the students can actually use the way the program and all the amount of work people do, we let them set it up as an internship. So that way, not only does the cloud architect or cloud engineer in India learn the job, get extraordinarily good training, and learn skills that we teach that others wouldn't even be able to begin teaching, like the business acumen, the communication skills, the leadership skills, the things that really get someone hired and raise their salary. That's our strength. So we do that, plus we actually combine it with that internship kind of thing that the student can say, they set up server virtualization for enterprise-wide computing, for example. People build clouds in our program. So my students have a laundry list of things they can do under the Go Cloud Architects brand. So they not only have their basically their training, but they also get their experience that they can put down on their resumes. And that makes a big difference everywhere, but especially India, where there's a desire to have people that have got some kind of an internship background in addition to just the paper. So we teach that. We give people the paper. I mean, it's nothing to make someone an AWS certified solution architect professional. I mean, we could do that in a week if we wanted to. Our students all come out and graduate with that. But you know, we have a program. So our program is 250 hours. 20 hours that is the certified solution architect professional. The other 230 plus hours is actually related to architecture and the business pieces and really getting people cloud hired, giving me information to get cloud hired. And that's why every single day I get a notification that somebody got cloud hired, including yesterday. One of my students in Canada just got cloud hired and got a fantastic job. So that's my recommendation. Yes, there's lots of cloud architect and engineer jobs in India. I speak to my friends in India constantly. My best friend actually works for AWS in India. So something I do all the time. Lots of jobs over there. Akwo, you're more than welcome. Harish Sina, you recently got selected in AWS Start Restart. How can you equip with more knowledge other than your long-term goal is cloud architecture? Well, Harish, you got two options. The AWS Start Restart is an excellent intro to junior level cloud things. And I think that is great. I will tell you that AWS Restart Start is about 1 million times better than those paid certification programs that I found out there. I will tell you that right now, but I'm also going to tell you it is really, really, really basic. So, Harris, you've got two options. Option one is if you desire to do anything in the architecture space, since you described that, we have a cloud architect career development program that will teach you everything that you need to know. If you are not taking our course, Harris, and you still want to know, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. Now, it'll cost about 10 times less doing it our way, but I will tell you what to do if you do it on your own. First, you need to learn the network and the data center. So if you're not with us, I recommend reading the following 4 books for the networking piece. I recommend Internet Routing Architectures by Bassam Halabi. I recommend Routing TCP IP Volumes 1 and 2. Jeff Doyle was the first one. I forget who wrote the second one. Stevens TCP IP. Now that's about 6,000 pages, about $250 worth of reading, and that will give you a basic introduction of the routing. Now, you still, from the network side, need to understand VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking protocols, IPsec, VPNs, layer 2 VPNs, software-defined networking, MPLS traffic engineering. It would be a nice to have if you actually knew that, but not necessarily. NAT, one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, and all the use cases for NAT. And I'm telling you, it's not just connecting to the internet. There's a lot of use cases for NAT. Then you should have a good knowledge of DNS, a good knowledge of those layer 2 protocols such as ARP and those other kind of networking things that you should know as well. Then you should know servers and server virtualization, containers, firewalls, VPN concentrators, have real deep knowledge of block, object, and file storage, knowledge of NFS, knowledge of the server message block protocol. Then, in addition to that, you should and where are you going to get this information? For firewalls and security, for about 1,000 pages, you can go to Cisco, you can go to Fortinet, you can go to Checkpoint, and you'll get great, and Palo Alto Networks, you'll get great information on your firewalls, your IDS systems, your IPS systems. And if you're not training with us for about 1,000 pages, that's where I'd get that security information. For your virtualization information, I would get it from VMware for about 1,000 pages. You can pick that up. For your containers, you can pick that from Docker, Kubernetes, OpenShift, and you can also get it from VMware. Again, about 1,000 pages of reading there. Then Microsoft, read and learn about Active Directory, for example, and then you'll be good to go. After that, you should learn about clouds, and you should build one. All my students do. My students build a cloud. So those are the technologies that you need to learn. Now, next, none of these jobs are possible unless you study the business side of it. So you're going to need real good business acumen. You're going to need excellent emotional intelligence, excellent soft skills, executive presence, communication skills, these and leadership skills. Because you're going to be designing systems and need to be leading a team of 50 or 150 people to try and even deploy these things. So you've got to have these skills. They are critical to really get ahead in this role. So those are the kind of skills. Now, from a lab perspective, I think you need to do labs, but you can't do the really cool labs in the cloud because the cloud providers won't let you. They block nested virtualization. So the labs that I recommend you do, and all my students do it, if you're with me, it is included. But if you're not, I recommend you buy a 16-core Xeon server with a minimum of 128 gigs of RAM and 3 SSD drives in a RAID 0 configuration or an NVMe drive, because we need that speed. We need a high IOPS and we need high throughput. So that would be what I would recommend. And on this server, set up VMware ESXi, set up KVM, QEMU, do it all. Set up some containers, build a firewall, build a VPN concentrator, set up an NFS share, build some virtual machines and connect it to the NFS share, set up a Samba share, build a VPN concentrator, build a Linux firewall in there, set up Microsoft Active Directory, and build the cloud. That's what all our students do in the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. There you have it. I told you what goes into our 250 to 500 hours of training. I also told you that you can do it with us. Now, again, if you're not with us, you can get this soft skills training. You can go to Speakeasy. They have a course. It's about 3 days. It's a good intro to speaking for about $2,000 called Talk So People Listen. Great intro thing. You can take a Goldman, Boyatis kind of emotional intelligence training for about $5,000, and it will have a massive impact in your career. Or just take ours. It's included in our training program. You can take a presentation class, some business writing classes. You can go do an MBA to learn how to do RL modeling. These are the architect skills. So I recommend you get them. Get them with us. We'd love to work with you. Get them on your own. That's cool too. I just want you to get that cloud architect job so you can have the best career, best life, and be totally happy. So Harashina, those are my recommendations on how to get the knowledge, because your long-term goal is cloud architecture. Study cloud architecture, study system design, study the business behind it, because the only reason we use technology as architects is to transform the business. That's why it's so critical to have these business skills. That's why we're not engineers. We can't change a business and optimize a business if we don't understand business. So Harish, I hope I answered your question there. Vishal Varma, thanks, Mike. You want to become a cloud architect? Well, Vishal, like I said, you can actually take the last answer I have. Basically speaking, I'm learning the network in the data center, the business skills, the communication skills, the emotional intelligence, executive presence. You do those kind of skills, you'll get there. Remember, Vishal, architects focus on transformation. In fact, the best way I can describe this is we love tech. Almost everybody on this call. We love it. We buy it. Apple has a new computer. We're going to go look at it, even if we don't buy it. And Cisco's got a new router. We want to see it. Palo Alto has another firewall. We got to go see it. We want it. It is awesome. We're techies. But we buy tech because we like it. I don't need to be streaming from a 6K camera that I'm doing right now, but I want you guys to have the best experience, and I think it's kind of cool. I don't need to be using a 64-core Threadripper CPU with a 0.5 terabyte of RAM to be streaming to you guys right now, but I'm a techie, so it's cool. Now, look at the business. The business doesn't like tech at all. Businesses don't want to buy tech. Tech is this burdening thing. It's expensive. The business has to deal with these IT people, and they don't like dealing with them because the world assumes we IT people are cranky and miserable people. We're not, but the world assumes it. So, businesses don't like tech. What do businesses care about? Guess what? Publicly traded companies. Do you know what the CEO is responsible for? Increasing shareholder value. In fact, the CEO of a publicly traded company, if they do things that are not related to increasing the shareholder value, not only can they be fired, they can be put in prison. So the CEO is concerned about increasing shareholder value. What increases shareholder value? The stock price going up or a dividend on the stock. How does a company get the stock price to go up? As a rule, they raise earnings or they decrease expenses. So when you're dealing with the business, what are they trying to do? They're trying to increase sales or decrease the expenses that they have. What are organizations' expenses? People, product, and the such. A lot of what we do as tech people is we create systems that are optimized so companies can do more with less people. In fact, the more challenging the people in the environment become, the more the organizations invest in technology. So to be an architect, you need to understand the businesses. You need to understand what's going on in the economy because you've got to understand macroeconomics. You must understand what's going on in the finance space. You must understand market forces such as inflation as it pertains to cost of capital, because your company's weighted average cost of capital will determine whether they should procure something or buy it with CapEx versus lease it with OpEx or use a cloud. All of this stuff is necessary to even think about the architecture long before you get started. See, it's not the tech. The tech is awesome. The tech is a tool. I go meet with that business. They tell me I want to increase sales by 3%. I start looking for ways that I can get the customer closer to the organization through technology. I'm looking for collaboration. I'm looking for connectivity. I'm looking for speed of communication. I'm looking for anything. That's what we do as an architect. That's why I'm so focused on the business. But there's another reason I want you to focus on this side of it. You can have your architect's range. At the extreme low end of the salary range is your technical solution architect. At the extreme high end is your business architect. As you go from that technical solution architect to solution architect to cloud architect to enterprise architect to business architect, the career progression goes up and the salary goes up. And conversely, the technical capabilities go down as the salaries are going up. And it's not because the world wants less technical people at all. It's that the world needs the business people so badly that understand the technology. So if you can marry really excellent tech skills and excellent leadership skills and soft skills and presence and communication skills, that's where you have the magic. That's the thing that makes your salary 3 times higher than the next guy next to you or the next girl next to you. Trust me, I've had jobs, and you're not, the reason they don't let you disclose your salary is the person that's the most emotionally intelligent earns the most. The person with the most soft skills, statistically speaking, earns 33% more than the other people. Executive presence on average. So I just want you to think about it this way. Soft skills themselves, training in soft skills on average raises someone's salary 33%. 33%. Emotional intelligence training, by comparison, typically speaking, raises someone's salary, and you can research it, $29.6 thousand more per year. So if you deal with an average salary of $160 and you do 33% of that, you're dealing with approximately $50,000 thousand. So if you get a $50,000 bonus per year for learning soft skills and a $30,000 bonus for learning emotional intelligence, that's $80,000 a year. Times 10 years is $800,000, times 30 years is $2.4 million. Why am I focused on asking all of you to learn soft skills, executive presence, and emotional intelligence? I want you to have everything. I want you to have the kind of life that I had where you could afford to retire in your 30s or you're working like me because you love what you do, not because you have to. This cloud world, these architecture jobs are amazing, but you've got to have the skill. I want you to have the skill. The skill is half tech, half business, leadership, communications. Get both sides. The world is yours. So, Jesse, if you want to bring in the next one. Miller, is AWS certification mandatory to get a job at Amazon? No. So I'm going to tell you this. I know a lot of super senior architects at Amazon. None of them actually had any certs before they went there, but they all had CCIEs or they all had worked in the network of the data center for very long periods of time. And I know that for Google, as well as Azure, as well as AWS. Now, having said that, if you have no experience and you're new to tech and you don't have a big network and a data center background, I'm going to tell you this. Mandatory minimum certification to get even seen or hired as the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. Nothing less than that. Now, here's the thing. 20 years ago, I would have told you that the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate is good. I will tell you who the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate is good. It is perfect for me. A guy that's been designing cloud systems and working with cloud systems since the first cloud I worked with was 1997 was Frame Relay, 1996, 1997, I can't even remember. I worked with the ATM cloud, the BGP VPN cloud, the RFC 2547 cloud, the VPLS cloud, these clouds. I worked them all. So for me, I could get away with the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, and I look good on paper because I've already been doing it. If I did not have experience, the only minimum certification to have anybody take me seriously would be the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. So skip the AWS Cloud Practitioner. It is an exam that there is zero purpose in taking ever. It's going to take you 2 months to do it on average. There are 0 jobs available with the Cloud Practitioner unless maybe you want to be a sales rep. And even if somebody does find a job with this, it's almost the same exam as the Certified Solution Architect Associate. It takes 2 months for someone to do the Cloud Practitioner exam. Average cloud architect earns $600 a day. Average $600 a day times 2 months wasted time to do the Cloud Practitioner. That's $24,000 of lost earnings. That's the opportunity cost. Opportunity cost means if you spend your time in one place, you can't spend it somewhere else. If a business spends its money in one place, it can't spend it somewhere else. So you have to determine when you do your training where you're going to put your training time in. Wait, Mike just said I have to calculate the opportunity cost of my time. Guess what? When you're dealing with business, do you know what they have to do? Calculate the opportunity cost of their time. So when you give your cloud architecture, and the organization is going to say, wow, Damerla, this $3 million architecture, if I spend $3 million here, what's the expected value, the expected value of the opportunity? Meaning if your $3 million architecture can promote $10 million of value, that looks really good. But what if a company could spend that same $3 million and return $50 million of value in another project? If that company doesn't have enough money, they're going to put it in the higher return on investment architecture, the one that returns 50 million, not 10. If a company's got access to capital, they'll do both. The key for you as the architect is to be able to understand how you can make the biggest impact financially to the customer, and then design that solution for that customer, and then convince that customer that they need your solution, not somebody else's solution. And the same way that I talked about the certification ROI of your time, as the architect, you must do the same way every day, every time, to help an organization determine what's going to give them the maximum return on investment capital. I know I gave you a big dissertation on business, but I wanted you to be successful, and that's why I did it. So if you guys are having a good time, if you can hit that like button, if you can type #CloudHired in the window, I know you're awake, alert, and oriented and having a good time. And please, comment, share, and make sure you hit that bell if you're not a subscriber to be notified. We are going to be doing a lot of free training coming up. We have a lot of treats coming for you. Some major announcements on November 1st, some things that are going to take people that have been struggling to get hired and help them out. So hit that like button, tell others to join and subscribe to the channel. We've got lots and lots and lots of wonderful things to go talk about things. So who has the next question for me? Freddie Munoz, you just passed the AWS Solution Architect Associate exam. What should your next step be? Well, first, Freddie Munoz, tell me what actual job you want, and then I can tell you what your next step should be. Prior to knowing that, I have absolutely no idea, because the next steps are going to change based upon your actual goal career. So Freddie, I look forward to answering that question, but you got to let me know what job you want, and then I can tell you what your next step should be. CEO Trell, what are my thoughts on Salesforce technology for cloud architects? CEO Trell, I think you should focus on becoming a great cloud architect. CRM technologies like Salesforce are used, and I think you should know about them. But CEO Trell, I know you're focused on becoming a cloud architect, so I would focus on becoming a cloud architect and not CRM. You want to be great at something, focus all your time and effort on one thing, and I would focus on becoming a cloud architect and not focusing on other things outside of it, like Salesforce technology. Salesforce has some great technology, and at some point as a cloud architect, you will use it. But as a cloud architect, you need to be a business transformation specialist. So you're going to get much, much, much more value out of doing it. In fact, I saw one of the certification providers, they had a really good article. Certification training can raise your salary upwards of $10,000 for $12,000. And while that sounds like a lot of money, I just showed you how training soft skills and emotional intelligence can have an $80,000 impact to your career per year versus one that's worth $10,000 to $14,000. I think if you want to be a cloud architect, CEO Trell, you should focus on being a cloud architect and remove all these distractions from the way. Get rid of anything that's not exactly becoming a cloud architect, and I think you're going to become a great cloud architect. That's my recommendation for you, CEO Trell. Focus, focus, focus. Percy Duckworth, how do you pass this AWS CSA tips, please? Well, Percy, it's generally speaking, it's not really a hard exam for you to pass. You can do it all super cheap, super easily. So here's my recommendation. We have we have two. We have a 100% completely free 6-hour condensed AWS Solution Architect Associate course. Percy Duckworth, we also have like a 15 to 20 hour live course that we taught on YouTube. a few weeks ago, and that is a really solid course. It basically starts from 0 and it works itself from somewhere between the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate midway through to the Certified Solution Architect Professional. So it's got a lot of it in there. We also have a completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate book. In addition to that, I strongly recommend the Andrew Brown Free Code Camp, free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate course. And I'd follow that up with a course with a practice exam from my friend Haman Sharma's company, Review and Prep. They are excellent. I mean, I have no financial ties to them in any way, shape, or form. It's not like I get paid for this, but I actually think that Haman Sharma is an extremely good guy. I know him really well. I know Review and Prep well, and I know he's got a really good, relatively low-cost AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Practice exam. So we have a completely free basic AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate course, a completely free deep one on our YouTube channel, and if you can pop the links to that. Additionally, we have a completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate book. The link is in the description of this video below. And then take Andrew Brown's free code camp, AWS Certification 1, and you will have more and more and more than you need. Follow that up with a practice test. All of this training together to pass that exam should be about $20 or something like that, and you'll be good to go. And that is more than enough to be really great to start. Harris Senior, are there any tips on upgrading or communication? Well, Harris, there's two kinds of things. So there's upgrading your communication and there's having an accent. Having an accent is fine. It's totally, totally fine. We all have an accent. When I go to England, they look at me like, where am I from? When I go home in Greece, where I speak Greek, people are like, where are you from? Because I have an accent. That is never a problem. These are the problems, Harris. If I ask someone, tell me about what is block storage and object storage. EBS S3. I'm like, I don't know, tell me what is block storage. EBS. I'm like, no, seriously, what is block storage? How does it work? EBS. I mean, that's what I get half of the time. Or I get object storage is a storage on the cloud. It's called S3. Again, that's a problem. Or I get, tell me about object storage and how it works. Object storage is a storage type. It's good if you write once, read many times. It's all over the cloud. It's real cheap. Performance okay. None of that. Now, Harris, what if you said block storage and object storage are a type of storage area technology? Notice just how I said that. Block storage and object storage are a type of storage area network technology. You felt it. I had some presence there. I varied my vocal tone. Look, my cat Cindy eats mouses. My cat Cindy eats mice. So when we're talking about communication, it's the concept of learning how to leverage your vocal tone. It's learning where to pause. It's learning how to collect your thoughts. It's learning how to communicate and frame things in a manner that's very simple for understanding things. So your accent, don't worry about it. In fact, accents are part of life. In fact, any really good cloud architect, manager, or leader knows that if you're going to have a strong team, you're going to need to have people from all over the world with very different backgrounds and educations. It's very critical, Harris, that our teams have different people from all over the world. And here's the reason. As architects, we're in charge of business transformation. Do you know what it's like to transform a multi-billion-dollar business or $1 trillion business? It is not easy. And we're going to need the best and the brightest from all over the world. And we're going to need people that think differently. Why? If everybody thought exactly the same, there is no transformation. We're all going to keep doing the same thing again, again, and again every day and expect a different outcome. But I bring someone in that's got your background. Maybe you've got a different accent than I do, but maybe you were taught better math than I was, or maybe analytical skills. Maybe I was taught more leadership skills. And my world is communication. Next, maybe I took somebody from another part of the world that's got a degree of mental toughness that's necessary to survive. They can be on my team and keep us all motivated. A good team has people from all over the world, and people from all over the world have accents. So don't ever, ever worry about the accent. Instead, it's the presence. It's the simplicity of being understood. It's knowing when to use jargon and when not. It's being relevant to the right audience. It's being succinct. Those are the communication things we're talking about. Don't worry about your accent. So, Jesse, you want to bring in the next one? Amir, will I create a session for a single root IO virtualization? Possibly. Here's the thing, Amir, and I brought it to my team, here's all single root IO virtualization is. You take a virtual machine, and instead of having a logical network card, you do what's called PCI pass-through, and you just push a physical card into the server. So if anybody's ever created a virtual machine and they wanted to push the actual physical GPU in there for GPU learning, that's PCI pass-through. If anybody wanted good network performance and they just did a PCI pass-through, for example, of a network card inside of a virtual machine, again, that's PCI pass-through. It's the same as single root IO virtualization. Do we talk about single root IO virtualization and every time we do a cloud networking, every AWS training session, Amir? Absolutely, we do. So could we create a session on something like this? Possibly, probably. It's such a basic topic. I'm not sure if there's enough that we could potentially talk about. So I will bring it back to my team and think about it. Perhaps what we'll do, Amir, is we'll do something on higher performance networking. And in that section, we can talk about these things that are pretty basic, but at the same time, really do increase performance, like the better drivers, PCI pass-through of cards. So I think it's a great idea, Amir. I'll take it back to my team. If we can find a way to make the topic big enough for a video, I will definitely do one. Otherwise, we're going to be doing a lot of training sessions, including a networking one coming soon. In fact, I think it's either next week or the week after that. I don't remember. I'll have to find out from my chief operating officer who's going away. We're going to do a completely free either CCNA course or AWS Advanced Networking course. And somewhere along the line in that course, we'll make sure we definitely talk about this, especially if it's the AWS Advanced Networking. If it's the CCNA course, if we mention virtualization, well, we won't be able to put it there. But if we do the AWS Advanced Networking, we can definitely pop it in there and it'll fit. So, Amir, we will definitely do something like that in some way, shape, or form. It's just the question is where we could put it. So, Jesse, if you want to bring in the next one. Darmela, how do you achieve 0 for the downtime for the production application? Darmela, that's architecture. I could teach you how to do that, but that would take me to really teach you how to do it right, about 250 hours. And that's why we created the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. This session is for people to actually ask career questions. What should I study to get hired? What should I do to pass this exam? What should I do for this? What should I do for that? This is not an architectural training system. We do have an architectural training system called the Cloud Architect Career Development Program, and we can teach people how to design architectures in there. But that's architecture. But the question is finding out exactly the career you want. But that's definitely how we would recommend architecture. But we'd have to teach that. That's not something that we can do in 3 minutes, teaching you how to do a 5 nines available system. 5 nines available systems. There's very few of us in the world that even know how to do it. And those of us that know how to do it, realistically speaking, are, because even 5 nines means 5 minutes and 15 seconds of downtime per year. And for the most part, we get into the billion-dollar architecture realm once we start trying to get to the 5 nines world. I can do it. I've been doing it my whole life. There's probably 10,000 of us in the world that know how to do it, and that's about it. But I can't do that in 5 minutes. I can't even do that in 250 hours. I could try. I could, but I could get people to do like a almost 5 nines network in 250 to 500 hours. But it takes that much. It takes so much change management. It takes so much orchestration. It takes so much redundancy. It takes lots. So he'd be talking about a data center and 2 clouds to do this with multiple links everywhere and multiple redundancy things everywhere. So it can definitely be done, and I've done it. But again, it's not something we could do in a forum like this. That would take real heavy duty instruction. And it would need CCIE level networking, because we'd have to get to the CCIE level to do that in the networking side. We'd have to have, expert level data center knowledge to do it. And we'd also have to have a team of a lot of people for the people processing the technologies to do it. Totally achievable, but real expensive and very specialized training to do that. I would answer more of that, but that's about all we can do in this formula. But, if you want to take our training, inside of that training program, we will get you to, I'd say, 99% of the ability to do that on your own. But realize, even if we get you to 99%, you're still going to need to consult with the CCIEs to do something like this. You're still going to need to consult to a security team. You're still going to need to consult to an IM team. You're going to need operations experts in your team. You're going to need a lot of people in your team. Getting to the zero downtime for an application, we're kind of getting into the 50-person teams of experts and hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to do so. So there you go, Demerla. That's why we can't cover it in 5 minutes. Cedric, you're more than welcome. Harrisina, is there a scholarship to participate in my cloud architecture program? Not really, but we do offer a 20% discount. Fair. I did my bachelor's in computer networking and security, then completed your master's in information enterprise management. You are interested in cloud. Completed your AWS CCP. So, again, I don't know what you want to do in cloud. There's about 10 different cloud careers, maybe 20 different cloud careers. So if you tell me what you actually want to do, then I can actually tell you, but I need to know, because you could do DevOps in the cloud, you could do maintenance or SysOps on the cloud, you could be a software developer on the cloud, you could be a database person on the cloud, you could be a big data architect on the cloud, you could be a security engineer on the cloud, a cloud security engineer on the cloud, an IAM architect on the cloud, an IAM engineer on the cloud, a cloud engineer, a cloud architect, an enterprise architect. You could be them all. And what's necessary from there is to know what you want to be, because each one of these has a very different path. So if you ask that, I'm happy to answer it. Otherwise, it's just going to be guesses, and the guesses could be very dangerous. So I don't want to make any dangerous guesses with your career. Jess, if you want to bring in the next. NGWE, are there any solution architect or cloud architect jobs in Cambodia? There are cloud architect and solution architect jobs all over the world. In fact, very recently, I turned down a position where somebody wanted me to manage a client that was sitting in Japan. In fact, the first thing I did is I called some buddies in India and said, hey, are you interested in this position? So the answer is yes, you can work remotely. And there are cloud architect jobs in Cambodia. Now, Southeast Asia, some of those countries have a little bit less opportunities than we have, say, in the US or the UK. But understand that there are jobs everywhere. And there is such a shortage of cloud architects that it's very, very easy to kind of do these kind of things. So those are kind of my recommendations. But yes, there are jobs. These jobs are so available everywhere. And here's why. The network in the data center, we've been using it forever. And it's great stuff. Ultra high performance, but it's complicated. The network in the data center is complicated. I read 75,000 pages just to get to my CCIE. And I'm going to tell you, another 200,000 pages easy in my career to be a good network architect. And you know what I did with those several 100,000 pages? BGP, multicast, and MPLS. And just that, hundreds of thousands of pages. That's how deep it is. And because of that, my day would be like this. Go from Palm Beach to DC, to San Jose, to London, to Dubai, to Hong Kong, because there was work everywhere. So NGWE, be great at what you do, and the world is there, but you got to be great, especially when you're in an area. Like if I go home to my home village in Greece, and I'm in my happy village, and everybody knows everybody, and nobody locks their doors, and there's little cats running around the street, and everybody's nice. It's really wonderful. There's not a lot of economic activity going on in my small 5,000 person village in Greece. But you know what? I can live in that village in Greece, and I can work for companies in England, and I can work for companies in Australia, and I can work for companies in the US. And I've done it. I've lived in the family house in Greece, and nobody knew. So the point is, yes, you can. You're going to have to work a little harder, and you're going to have to be better. But you work hard, you become great, and of course, you will do amazingly well. Just be the best you can. And it doesn't matter where you're at. You'll find it. It may take you a little longer, but you'll find it. Daniel Pike, good to see you. Cloud hired. FM, have I encountered solutions where clients blame you for something didn't work after you gave them a solution? Well, FM, it's all dependent upon the kind of architect you really are. So when I do architecture work, remember I told you I do it from a business transformation perspective. I work with the executives the entire time. I get the executive buy-in the entire time. I write a memorandum of understanding prior to doing anything. There's contracts in place. There's metrics that are associated. Team will do this by X day. Team will do this by Y date. Team will do this by Z date. Team will do this, 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 and this. So there are specific, measurable, achievable, results-oriented, time-based goals along the way. Something that is so defined with that ahead of time, and I get buy-in for every step along the way. So have I had clients where situations didn't turn out well? Things that I've designed? No. Now, I'll tell you why, FM. It's not because I'm a better architect that I don't run into these problems. It's because my communication skills and my business acumen is there. And because I trained so much emotional intelligence, and like I said, I've told other people, between the company and me, I've invested, or together has been invested, $250,000 on soft skills training for me. I'm going to tell you, it was paid back within a year of my career. That's how critical these skills are. So FM, when you really start and establish rapport with the executives, and they're in there part of it, and you've got their buy-in, they don't blame you afterwards. So I've seen situations, and I've gone into situations where I was like, go rescue them, Mike, where someone designed it and they started and they worked with mostly the tech people, then the sales rep basically sold it. The architect basically had no meetings at the executive level. And then here's what happened. It didn't work. And then the customer was upset, and then they'd bring me in. And then I'd have to go do my thing, which is start at the executives, get buy-in, apologize for all the things that previously occurred from other people, let them know I was going to fix it, being emotionally intelligent, listening, rephrasing and taking things back to them, documenting what they tell me, and then going back to my team and getting the millions of resources that are necessary to go solve this problem. Because people have problems, tech doesn't work the way it's supposed to a lot of the time. And if you can fix it, and you can fix it fast, and that customer knows there is nothing that matters more than their success, it changes everything. I've taken over accounts where there's been outages. I'm not joking. I've literally camped on site where if there was the team that was troubleshooting at 6 o'clock in the morning, I was there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was bringing in breakfast and coffee for the troubleshooting team. And I'd stay there, and when lunch would come, I'd be ordering sushi for everybody. And when dinner would come, I'd have dinner with the groups. When things would be done, I don't care if it was 10 o'clock at night, I would buy those team drinks, anybody that wanted it, and I would diffuse the situation. So the tighter your relationships, the better things are. And you know what, FM? You can look at doctors and lawsuits. So in America, medical malpractice is one of the worst problems we medical people have. In fact, here's what happens. We treat a patient, we do everything right. We tell a patient that's morbidly obese, that smokes, for example, and not to eat this and to exercise. They eat it, don't exercise, they get a heart attack, and then they blame us. So, these kind of things happen all the time. But here's the thing. In America, where people sue like crazy, they don't sue the doctor they like. They sue the doctor. They went into the doctor was mean to them. So when it comes down to it, it all goes back to the emotional intelligence. When someone knows you truly care and that you are in it to fix their situations, they get very happy very quick. But they have to know you truly care. It has to be truly authentic. People can feel disingenuousness. People can feel when they're being lied to, and it makes them sick. So FM, I have never had a problem where I designed it, thankfully. I've taken lots of problems where my team has designed it or peers have designed it over the course of 25 years. I've gone in, I've smiled, I've asked the right questions, I've brought in the right team and solved it, and the customer was happy. But please understand, the better your start, the better your communication, the better executive presence, the better your understandings, the memorandums or MOUs ahead of time, the RFIs, RFPs that are in place, and all these things that get done, the contracts and the checkoff lists. These give you the ability to say, I did what I said I was going to do on time, and you get the customer to solve. And that helps so much, FM. Yes, and please let us know where you're from in the chat box. I love knowing where you're from. Quite frankly, my family is either from Philadelphia or a nice village called Napatamos, Greece, or Megalopefko. And I think it's really cool when people come in from all kinds of parts of the world. I was born in Philadelphia. My wife was not. I think it's exciting when we have people from all over the world to tell us where you're from. And hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell others about us. I see we've got some from India. FM said thank you. Demerla, is it really helpful with microservices process rather than monolithic process? Again, Damarella, what is the context of what you're talking about? So, and what career is it going to? So, if you're an application developer, microservices are the end thing. If you're an architect, you need to know about microservices, but you're not going to be making them. So again, every time you ask one of these questions, you got to please remind me exactly what you want to use it for. And that's really the things, because right now I'm not even sure I understand the question. Is it helpful to your career? Is it helpful to the architecture? I'm not really sure I understand. So if you let me know, I'll happily do that. Happily answer it. Victor Willem, cloud hired, and thank you, Mike. You're more than welcome, Victor. I just want to see you get to your goals. I think, I think, and whatever is going to make you truly happy and passionate long term is what makes me happy. Tide. Hello, Mike. When people finish your program, do some end up being other things than a cloud architect, maybe due to circumstances like life experience or skill? It's pretty interesting, Tide. Most of my people end up being cloud architects. Most. Some end up being solution architects. I've had a couple of them that just found that while they were doing my architecture stuff, they like configuring things so much that they chose to become cloud engineers instead. And I've had some graduates become technical account managers at AWS, the people that like it. And I've had some other people that have gone on to take some pretty nice leadership positions from the things. And I had one person, she wanted to do architecture, and then in the process of teaching the soft skills, the executive presence, emotional intelligence, she was a really good DevOps engineer, but we taught her all these executive communication skills and things. And in the process of her actually being ready to apply, because I actually called some recruiters on her behalf, in the process of doing that, she was offered an extremely high-paying DevOps position, and she chose to take it. So I've got lots of people graduating my program, getting lots of jobs. Almost all the time, it's a solution architect or a cloud architect job, almost all the time. Occasionally, it's a technical account manager role. Occasionally, it's a technical program manager role. But almost all the time, it is an actual cloud architect role or a solution architect role. And the only time it's a problem is if people don't focus on the soft skills. If people don't focus on the soft skills, they end up becoming cloud engineers. And again, a cloud engineer is a great role. But one of the main differences in architecture roles and engineering roles is not only the focus of what we do, but there's a very different perception. The engineer is a deep technical person. The architect's nowhere near as deep, but they're a lot more business oriented, except for the technical architect role. So people typically end up with architect roles because we do architect training. And that's why. Jesse, you can bring in the next one. NGW, you're a banker by profession with 6 years experience in the banking industry. What advice would you roll into solution architect or cloud architect? Okay, NGWE. Now we're talking about career optimization. So you've got a couple of ways that you can optimize or maximize your architecture career. So you could become a cloud network architect or a cloud security architect, or and I'm going to tell you this, NGWA, there's a solution architect and a cloud architect. So before I answer this, the solution architect is a meaningless term. A solution architect is kind of like a junior cloud architect. So I recommend never focusing on being a solution architect and always focusing on being a cloud architect. So NGWA, let me explain the difference. A solution architect is, hey, I know AWS. A solution architect is, hey, I know Azure. A cloud architect is, Mr. Customer, I'm going to go solve your problem. I'm going to include HPO. I'm going to put OpenStack Ansible in your data center, AWS, and Azure. So always take the cloud architect over the solution architect role. There was a time where single clouds were good In today's world where the industry is going, they're multi-clouds, and solution architects don't have the skill for today's modern changes. Cloud architects do. Cloud architects know all the clouds. Solution architects only know a single cloud. So I would tell you, focus on being a cloud architect. A cloud architect that's not prepared to get a cloud architect job can always take a solution architect job. But a solution architect will need special training to become a cloud architect. So train to become a cloud architect, greater salaries, more career progression, and much more job security. So trash the solution architect, go for the cloud architect. It's the same job, but instead of knowing one cloud, you need to learn all the clouds and how they work. So next, cloud security is awesome, but what is even more awesome? 6 years experience in the banking industry. 6 years experience in the bank industry. What does that give you? Industry knowledge. So now you have 6 years in banking, 2,000 hours per year is 12,000 hours. It takes a minimum of 10,000 hours to be an expert. You know about banking. Now, which industry pays the cloud architects the most? Banking. Because banks, if they have downtime, it costs them a fortune. So if you can design a systems for banks, focus on becoming a cloud architect. Now, in that business acumen area that I talk about, I recommend you focus on the banking industry. How do they manage risks? What are those real-time feeds that are coming in? Unicast, multicast, broadcast. What are the financial applications that are being used? What about IP telephony and computer telephony integration to the financial advisor? I've done a lot of work in there. Focus on the things that make the finance industry better. And guess what, NGWE? You've got 6 years experience. So now you're already awesome. So become a cloud architect. Combine that cloud architect knowledge with banking knowledge. Become the subject matter expert on cloud solutions for banking. That's your ticket. I got to tell you this. I did that for a while because I kind of have a big finance background. But you know when my career really changed, my architecture career? I was at Cisco and I'd been designing the voice network for the world's largest bank. I had done a $1.1 billion deal with a global retailer, with an outsourcing provider. So I had, pretty good storied career. And then when I was at Cisco, they said, hey, we're going to start a healthcare consulting division. And they were looking for technology professionals that knew healthcare. Well, I applied for that job. It was a director level job. It was an architect job. And I took that job and my career was like a rocket ship. It was like overnight everywhere I went. I had that job for a month. I wrote a paper called The Medical Grade Network. I gave a presentation. I traveled 300,000 miles a year, got 3 promotions in less than 3 years. Why? What was it that was so special? It was that because I could practice medicine, I knew exactly what doctors and nurses did. And I understood the healthcare industry. So when I worked as a healthcare industry architect, I was designing solutions that would optimize the nurse's workflow, that would optimize the doctor's workflow. I was able to save hours of work per day per nurse with my designs, which saved the customers millions and millions and millions of dollars a year just by doing minor things, which created enough money and capital for these healthcare institutions to invest in technology that was transformational to their business, improved quality outcomes, improved doctors and nurses speaking, eliminating the need for mistakes. So because I was an industry expert. Now, NGWA, if I was not an industry expert and I was just imagining what doctors would do, I'd be creating more problems than solutions because I wouldn't know. So if I was you and I had 6 years in the banking industry, I would get myself some great architecture training and I would deepen my knowledge of the business industry, especially the banking industry, and I think you'll have a fantastic career. That's what I would do if I was you. It's what I did in my career, and boy, did it help me. Jesse, you can bring in the next one, please. Victor Williams, you're basically saying that having DevOps knowledge is good for a cloud architect, and do you need anything in your background? Okay, Victor, I want to be really honest with you. If you would like to take my course and become a cloud architect, I would love to work with you. I would love to work with you to make you the world's best cloud architect. I'd be thrilled to do it. But I'm saying that DevOps knowledge is a totally different career. So I want you to really understand the process. Process is an architect like me does the actual design. Architects design. Architects, after we design it, then we send it to a team of cloud engineers and DevOps engineers that go and build it. After they build it, they turn it over to a team of SysOps engineers to go maintain it. So having DevOps knowledge is helpful to the cloud architect, but not too much DevOps knowledge, Victor William. Like when I get people and they put all this DevOps engineering on their cloud architect resume, we have to remove a lot of it, because the perception of an engineer is, and it doesn't have to be true, but the industry perception of the engineer is a cranky person that stares behind the computer all day, that's not good being in front of people, that just wants to do computer stuff, play video games. That's the perception. I didn't say it's reality. I was an engineer and I love being an engineer, but that's the industry perception of an engineer. And it's even worse for the DevOps engineers because the software developers have a bigger perception like that. Now, as an architect, they want to be seen as an executive, the person that wears the good suits, the person that's got great communication skills, the person that's the leader. So having knowledge of DevOps, like knowing what a CI/CD pipeline is and understanding how tools like Terraform work, excellent for you, Victor. Truly, truly, truly excellent. But being a DevOps engineer will not help your cloud architect career. If you desire to be a cloud architect, come in our training program and we'll make you a great cloud architect and we'll get you hired and you'll have a fantastic career. But if you want to be a DevOps engineer, I recommend DevOps training. So it's a matter of picking which career you want because they're very different careers. And for example, you train differently to be a pilot than you do to be a flight attendant. The architect is much more like the pilot. The DevOps engineer is much more like the flight attendant. The pilot is steering, the architect steers the ship. The flight attendant makes sure everybody's safe on the ship. The architect designs it. The DevOps engineer builds it. The doctor writes the prescription. The nurse carries it out. So these DevOps roles are much more like the nursing roles, and these architecture jobs are much more like the doctor jobs. So if you want to become a doctor, you train to be a doctor. If you want to be a nurse, you train to be a nurse. If you desire to be a cloud architect, I would love to work with you and you'll do wonderful. I just want to make sure that, for example, that we get you on the right path based upon the things that you actually desire. Jesse, if you want to bring in the next one. Damarella, how many hours should you spend to finish the AWS Solution Architect Cert? Presume it's for a working person. Totally dependent upon you. Dependent upon what you like. If you're watching our 6-hour video, the 6 hours is definitely necessary. And then if you watched our 15-hour video after that, I'd say that 15-hour video is necessary. Then I would say if you read our book, which you could probably do, I would say that would take you 10 hours. So now we're up to 25, 30 hours. Then I'd say if you watched Andrew Brown's course, which is about, let's say 10 hours, that gets you to 40 hours. And if you spend 10 hours with the practice test, it gets you to 50 hours. So, you know, I'd say you could finish it in a month if you spend an hour and a half per day on it. Easily. You could do it in less than a month if you're really motivated. For example, I took the Google Professional Cloud Architect exam in 2 days, but then again, I knew the cloud. So I just didn't know Google. So it took me 2 days reading the Cybex book to pass it. So I got to tell you, you know, these are pretty easy exams compared to like Cisco exams or compared to some of the other exams that are out there. So for the Certified Solution Architect Associate, I would say 50 total hours and you could easily pass it if you've got good training, like the kind of training that I've given you, the free stuff. Now, I've seen the other training that's out there. You're talking rewatching, and then I don't even know. I decided to create our training after I saw what was out there. But I got to tell you, Andrew Brown's free certification training, excellent stuff. And we created ours because of the other training that we saw that was out there. I saw that people were getting 10x certified. They never worked in the industry, and all of a sudden they get a webcam, and all of a sudden they're drawing pictures of funny things, and they're teaching courses of things they didn't understand, and it really upset me because I wanted you guys to have a great career. So that's why I came out of requirement to do this. So again, you have resources, our 6-hour free expedited class, our 15-hour free expedited class, our free book, which is in the description of this, and then go out there, do Andrew Brown's free thing, go to Haman Sharma's review and prep, get a practice exam. Maybe it'll be $15, $20, $25. You'll be done in a month, and then go do the professional. I'm assuming you want to be an architect or a cloud engineer. That would be my next thing for you if I was a professional, and you'll do great. Freddie Muniz, you're a CCNP in routing and security. That is fantastic. Jesse, I think Freddie Muniz had a question before. Okay, so I just passed my AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate exam. What should you be? You have no experience. So now you said, Freddie, you said you have a CCNP, route switch and security. Do you have any experience with the CCNP route switch? Meaning, have you done any BGP work? Have you done any OSPF? Have you done any traffic engineering? What kind of NAT experience do you have? Or is it just paper? So the question is, do you have experience in the network or just the CCNP? So I need to know what you know or what you've done. That will determine your next steps. And if you have no experience in any tech, tell me that as well. I just don't know why I see the CCNP there. So I'm assuming with the CCNP, you've probably been working in tech, but I'm not sure. I did see one quick question come in, which I'm getting to. And the quick question is, do we have prerequisites for our training? And the answer is we do not have prerequisites for our training program. The key for me is I start everybody at a baseline level. We go so deep in our training that I need to know most people have a baseline level. So regardless of someone's background, I baseline them. And even when the people come to me and they think they know and they've got a certified solution architect professional or an Azure expert, once they get to the first class and they start doing things, they're like, oh my God, I thought I knew, but I didn't. So we have no prerequisites. We take people, and I don't care if you were a doctor or a nurse practitioner like me practicing medicine first. I don't care if you were in the customer service environment, and I don't care if you've worked in tech. I've been helping people transition careers forever, and it's easy for us to get you through the course. Here's what's necessary for people to be successful in our program. They have to show up. They have to do the work. And it's got a lot of work. I'm not going to pretend this is just this, that we're going to help somebody get this great career where they can earn hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and all they have to do is buy a course. No. My course is intensive. But my students that do this intensive work, the ones that show up every day, the ones that turn in their homework assignments, the ones that when I give them feedback on their homework assignments, say redo it, they redo it. Wow. But the ones that are not successful, for example, I like to co-author papers with things, and I give people send me documents, and I say, fix it. Those that keep coming back until they make it perfect, they always get hired. I don't care if someone's background, but the people that are not going to keep going and fighting until they win, that's the type. So I don't have any prerequisite requirements to take our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. If you want to be a cloud architect, that's my requirement. But I ask you to ask yourself, will you do the work? If you do the work, you'll be successful. If you do the work, you'll be successful. So no prerequisites we can easily get you cloud architect hired, and we can easily get you through our program. I've done this for 20 years, but it's a lot of work. So I put in my work for my students. My students can tell you I'm grading their papers at ridiculous times of the day. I'm out here. My students have questions. I make new videos for them all the time. So I do my part. My team of wonderful, wonderful professionals does my part to also make my students successful, and they're really great. They're helping me right now. And you would do well in our course as long as you bring forth the effort, have a focus, and we would love, love, love to work with you. Now, Jesse, you can bring in the next one, please. Kenny Zhang, Cloud Hired. It's so good to see you, Kenny. Yes, Jesse, thank you for the likes. It does help a lot with regards to the algorithm. So please, smack that like button. Tell some friends to watch our channel, like, subscribe, hit the bell, those kind of things. Natasha Singh. Hello, Mike. Natasha from South Africa. So nice to speak to you, Natasha. You've been successful in your first 2 interviews as a cloud architect with a company in Vancouver. You're having your 3rd interview tomorrow. Congratulations, Natasha. I am so happy for you. So happy for you. Do I have any tips for you for the interview? Absolutely. Now, I don't know if this is going to be a business interview or a technical interview. So if you tell me that, I can give you some more. But I'll give you some straight interview tips that will help everybody on this call And then if you give me some more, I can give you some more. If you tell me the actual job, I can tell you what the director wants to hear from you. But I will tell you things that we directors do care. So until you tell me what the actual job type is, meaning architect versus engineer, and what kind of industry it is, like is it a consulting company, is it a cloud provider, is it a retail organization? If you kind of give me one of those things, that'll help. Oh, interesting. You also worked as a solution architect at a bank. Yeah, industry knowledge makes all the difference in the world. So if you tell me exactly, I can give you there. But until then, I'm going to give you a few things. One is you should have a pre-programmed answer to the tell me about yourself question. That is absolutely very important, the tell me about yourself question. You should also have, okay, so now I'm seeing it's a director of professional services. Okay, key points to highlight. Still, you should have an answer to the tell me about yourself question. Now, you should have an answer to tell me about a difficult problem you solved. You should also have a tell me about a time where a customer was dissatisfied kind of things that are solved. You should be prepared to discuss your leadership and how you can bring out the best in others. You should be able to talk about customer service experience and the ability to delight customers. You should talk about the ability to make sure you can mentor others and lead a team. You should talk about the ability to connect to executives, because the director of professional services is going to be helping to sell actual things, meaning there's going to be an account team that's going to go sell these things, but the sales rep's going to be bringing in their executives to go communicate with the executives, and that's going to be you. So I'd say lots of business acumen, lots of executive presence, lots of emotional intelligence. Make it very clear that you said software, that you've got some knowledge of the software industry. Make it clear, if at all possible, that you've got the knowledge of the business, and then really be able, and if you give me more information, I can tell you development and OTS. I'm not really big on acronyms, because OTS, I know about 10 different acronyms. So if you can tell me that, that would help. But if you're dealing with software customization, I would be talking about leading teams, making sure you're excellent at requirements definitions. I would talk about being able to teach your group of people and your engineers and architects that work for you how to be good at asking the right questions. Because when it comes to customization of anything, it's the source of our information that's good. So have some examples of some customers that had a problem that you delighted through excellent customer service. I would definitely have that. I would have some examples of times where you've taken over challenging situations. I would have some examples of problems with people and what you've done about it. Okay, off-the-shelf software. I would have some examples of how you've led a team to people to customize things. I would have an example of how you've worked to collaborate with the sales teams, because you could be pre-sales, you could be post-sales, but in any case, when it comes to an end-to-end system design, it's more about the overall package, and services are actually part of that package. So those would be the things that I would focus on. Focus on trying to establish rapport early in the interview as possible. So if you know something that you have in common with the hiring manager, inject that into the conversation. The next thing, listen to what the person says. If the person says, I hear what you're saying, know their auditory, communicate to them in auditory terms. If the person says, I see what you mean, you can pretty much figure out their visual, communicate to them in visual terms. If the person says, I feel what you're saying, you can pretty much understand their kinesthetic, communicate to them in kinesthetic terms. Now, when the person communicates, listen to their communication style. When you hear me speak, I'm very vision-oriented. You know why I'm vision-oriented? I'm an intuitive personality type, like most CEOs. We're strategy-oriented. Now, do you know what most visionary types like me like to hear? Strategy. Do you know what visionary types like me don't like to hear? Numbers and metrics. They make us sick. Steps, plans, drives us batty. So identify who your audience is. If you're dealing with an intuitive, communicate to them in vision terms. If you're dealing with someone that keeps mentioning percentages, you're dealing with an analytical person. Give that analytical person some data, because otherwise they won't listen to anything you have to say. If you're dealing with a functional person, you identify them by them talking about process-oriented things. Talk in a process-oriented manner. your words are going to be sweeter to them. So communicate them in their preferred learning style, auditory, visual, kinesthetic. Communicate to them in their preferred leadership style. Now, when someone's communicating, if you're talking to them and you're talking and they're leaning in, keep talking. If you're talking to them and they cross their arms or lean back, stop talking. If you're in person and you can look at their feet, if their feet are pointing towards you, keep speaking. If you're in person and their feet are pointing towards the door, stop talking. And the reason stop talking is people's feet, because they're farthest away from the brain or the hardest control. That body language means they want to leave. So you could have done the perfect interview. The person could be running late. And if their feet are pointing towards the door and you don't notice it, and you're holding them back, you're basically keeping someone against their will. You're holding them prisoner, and that never works out well in an interview. So read the room. Now, listen for keywords. Keywords like you'll be working here with these people. Listen to see. Now, one piece of advice I'm going to give you is to stop at yes. I will tell you in sales, and thank you so much, Natasha. I'm so appreciative of your kind words, and I really do love to share my knowledge. Okay, it's a video call. So if you get to yes, just stop talking. And I say this because I've interviewed people and I'm like, yes, I want to hire you. And they just keep talking and they talk themselves out of the job. I've seen sales reps do it too. Once you get to yes, stop right over there. So those are basically the highlights of what we can do in a short period of time without knowing as much about all the things. I hope you find some of this helpful. Oh, as well as one thing, Natasha, if someone asks a question that you don't know, just be honest about it. And for my architects and engineers out there, here's the way: when you get asked a tech question that you don't know, don't lie. Just say, I'm sorry, I've not had the opportunity to learn that technology yet, but I'm highly energetic, I'm highly motivated, and I know what I know and I know what I don't know, and I can find the answers to things quickly. And if it was important for me to know this for this job, or this is important to you, I would do anything necessary to become an expert in it as quick as possible. But I need to be totally upfront and honest with you. This is not my skill set, but I know a lot about this, and point them to your areas of competency. Keep it honest. Keep it real. When people trust you because they know you're authentic, you're more likable. Likability matters more in hireability than almost anything else other than technical competency, meaning the ability to actually do the job. Jesse, if you want to bring in the next one. Adur Rough Shake, you're currently pursuing your bachelor's degree in computer science. Good. You don't, Jesse, if you can bring it, you don't have any experience in cloud computing, but after graduation, you want to join a company which is in this technology. Okay, you get some training, you'll be okay. Jesse, you want to bring in the second half? Can I give you a pathway for this? Absolutely. So in school, we learn a lot of valuable things. A little bit about writing, a little bit about research, a little bit about a lot of learning. Now, the tech stuff they teach us, not necessarily over related to anything that we're actually going to do unless we're software developers. So your path to the cloud is this. You have to learn the cloud. Now, there's two ways to learn the cloud. There's what I consider to be the smart way to learn the cloud, and there's what I consider to be the way you really don't want to do it. The smart way to learn the cloud is, you know how you learn to drive? You learn how to use the steering wheel, the accelerator, the brake, the signals to change lanes and turn directions. That's the smart way. Learn the cloud. Here's the non-smart way. Learn AWS. And then when you're done that, learn Azure. And then when you're done that, learn Google. And then when you're done that, learn Oracle. And then when you're done that, learn Palo Alto. When you're done that, learn Cisco. That to me is insane. So here's the thing. What is a cloud? The cloud is just a network and a data center that's been virtualized. The cloud is not new. It's 30-year-old technology. Actually, virtualization is almost 50-year-old technology. IBM invented it with a mainframe. That's how old this stuff is. And I've been working on clouds for over 25 years, almost 30 years. So the cloud is not new. But what is the cloud? It's routers and switches. It's servers, containers, firewalls, load balancers, DNS, storage. Applications such as databases. That's the whole cloud. So you want to be good, learn the network and the data center. So that's the first thing you need to do. Learn what routers do, learn what switches do, learn what routing protocols do, learn about IP addressing, IPv4, IPv6, learn routing protocols like BGP, learn about NAT, learn about DNS, ARP, VLANs, 802.1q tagging and trunking protocols, private lines, which are like the equivalent of a direct connection, VPNs, IPsec tunnels, GRE tunnels. Learn about servers and server virtualization and containers and firewalls and VPN concentrators and IDS, IPS systems. And now you basically know all of the systems on the cloud. Now at that point, you can go get any cloud certification you want or do anything you want. Now the next part that you didn't tell me, Abdar, is the career that you want. So if your career that you desire is architecture, now you need to learn architecture. And then with his system design, if your career is architecture, you must spend a tremendous amount of time learning leadership skills, emotional intelligence, executive presence, ROI modeling, these sort of things. Now, if you wanted to be a cloud engineer by comparison, you're going to still need to learn all those network and data center technologies that I talked about. But here, you're going to have to spend a lot of time being hands-on configuring. And the cloud engineer, you're going to have to learn Python, and you're going to have to learn a little bit of Node.js and get used to writing YAML templates and getting used to tools like Terraform as a cloud engineer. Quite frankly, I personally think it's easier to train a cloud architect than a cloud engineer at double the salary. But the reality is a cloud engineer is a very critical person, and that's how you would become a cloud engineer. Now, there are other really great jobs like cloud DevOps. For cloud DevOps, first you become a software developer, then you learn the DevOps tools, and then you learn the automation tools like Terraform, and you could do that as well. Still, recommend those network and the data center skills too. And all those leadership skills that I talked about as an architect and the communication skills, that will help you in any of these careers dramatically. So, these are those kind of things. So if you tell me the exact career, I can give you a perfect roadmap, but it takes knowing the exact career in order to give you the roadmap, because otherwise, we could give you the roadmap in the wrong direction. So I've given you some generic roadmaps, and I'm happy to get real specific if you tell me the career. But I need to know exactly what you want before I get you there. So if you guys are having a good time, if you can type #CloudHired, hit the like button, subscribe, forward and tell others about some of the free work that we do. We're always appreciative of these things. And then Jesse, if you can find the next series of questions. Millicent, how much Linux do you need to know for cloud architecture? Millicent, for architecture, true architecture, you need to know how the Linux operating system works. So a week ago, we made a Linux for Cloud Architects video, and it talks about the Linux kernel and the system libraries and the way memory and CPU is managed. That absolutely critical knowledge. And it doesn't hurt for the architect to know how to walk around the Linux command line. Nope, Millicent, we don't configure, we're architects, but it doesn't hurt to know your way around the Linux command line. So we also made a video of 21 common Linux commands that you should know. So Jesse, if you can basically do the following. If you can take the Linux for Cloud Architect video and the second Linux 20 commands videos, if you can pop the links to these two videos in the window, that way Millicent can see these two videos. And my team is writing an article describing Linux architecture and all the things you need to know to get familiar. And we will be publishing that within the next week too, Millicent, because Linux for cloud architecture is so important. Why does it matter so much? Well, 90% of the cloud runs Linux. Almost all of the world's biggest web servers all run Linux. All of the world's supercomputers now are running Linux. All the cloud is a bunch of servers and basically a bunch of servers. Well, there's routers and switches and storage. But all these servers basically are there. Somebody installs Linux and a very, very thin control plane. And what happens is the control plane of the cloud, there's an orchestration of the cloud. It's called the control plane. It's basically a couple of Linux controllers that then control a bunch of Linux machines that are servers that have like the KVM or the QEMU hypervisor. And that's how you build the cloud. And Millicent, if you're one of my students, because your name is familiar to me, you will build the cloud in our program. And when you build the cloud in our program, you're going to basically take the server, you're going to install Linux, then you're going to install OpenStack, and you're going to have a great time, and you'll know a lot about clouds after you do it. But that's about how much Linux you should know. You should know how it works, the operating system, the architecture, and why you need to use Linux and why it is being chosen as the choices of embedded operating systems. Why is it that nearly all web servers are running Linux now? Those are the things for the architects, the hows and the whys and the design. You'll be doing great, Melissa. You're more than welcome. Are there any sponsorship or coupons for certification because they're expensive? We're not a certification provider. We do certification training. The certification course, you pay to the certification fees are paid to what do you call it? To the certification testing provider. You can look for coupon codes on the internet, but you know, I don't know of anybody that's sponsoring people to actually take an exam, except for sometimes vendors when they, if they're totally short on people that can do the job, sometimes they pay for certifications. But as a rule, no. As a rule, certifications and investing in your education is something that we all have to pay for ourselves. You know, we can all choose to invest our time, effort, and money in whatever we choose to use. My recommendation is investing in your education or career is, if you're picking something you like, is always a good investment. Now, it's about, return on investment capital. And what I mean by that is, if someone's going to go to school to become a nurse, and you can go to one program that's $30,000 and another program that's $300,000, the education is going to be the same in both, and there's no reason to spend any more because the salary doesn't change. But in business, an MBA from an Ivy League school typically leads to a higher salary than an MBA from a smaller school because of the brand and because there's variability in these careers. So is it worth investing in these things? Somebody recently told me that they thought the CISSP was too expensive to take because it was $1,000. And when I took my CCIE 20 years ago, it was like $1,200 for the test. And someone says to me, Mike, are you crazy? You're going to spend $1,200 for that test. And I said, what is the average CCIE earning on a contract basis right now? And they said $110 an hour. I said, so if I work 40 hours a week, I'm going to make $220,000 a year by passing this test. You know how much I spent to go past Dharmala, that CCIE exam? I spent $40,000 renting routers and switches every week. But you know what? It made a six-figure difference to my salary overnight for the rest of my life. So was that $1,200 CCI exam, the $1,000 flight to pay for it, and the $250 hotel, and the $200 of meals and travel, and another $150? So say it cost me, $40,000 plus $2,500 to take the test because I had to fly there in those days. Was it worth it? Sure it was. So what I would say is, look for your high value targets. Like I said, soft skills training, on average, 33% rise. For an architect, that's $55,000 a year. If you paid $5,000 for a soft skills course, it'd be worth it. Literally speaking, even if you had to take a loan for it. If a $5,000 course can give you a $60,000 raise for the rest of your life, that would be $1.8 million in for the cost of $5,000. It would be the best return on capital investment of your life. Now, if you take our program, which is a single day's pay, we cover all these things because you need to know it. But the point is don't get 10 certifications. It doesn't make any sense. Just get the Certified Solution Architect Professional or the Azure Expert. Just one big one. And then get one big one from industry. Focus the rest of your time on being great. It doesn't cost you anything to read BGP information from Cisco. It doesn't cost anything to learn OSPF information from Cisco. It doesn't cost anything to learn firewall information from Cisco, Checkpoint, VMware, Palo Alto. That's the stuff that builds our career. So these silly certification exams, we need to take a few of them, and there's a bit of a cost for it, but I wish I could say there was a way around it. There isn't, but it takes some money to build a great career. Look at it this way. If it cost you $5,000 to build a cloud architect career, and you could earn $300,000 a year, and you can with some business acumen, soft skills, emotional intelligence, or spend $300,000 on an education to get a $150,000 job as a lawyer, which is a better value, $5,000 or $300,000. So my recommendation is just knock them out. I did it when I started. I had no money. Because I started and I had no money and I worked 3 jobs to pay for some of these kinds of things and crazy things that I did, that's why I offer a $25,000 program for basically $800, because I know how hard it is to start. I know I took loans when I paid for my things, and I know it was expensive, But for me, I paid it back overnight. I don't want anybody to be in a challenging financial position. That's why we made a $25,000 course. And I used to charge $400 an hour to teach these skills. And that's why we made it real cheap. So everybody in the world can do it. So that's why we try. So my recommendation is for some of these certifications, I gave you a list of free resources, but you got to pay for the exams. I just wish there was around it, but I don't make the exams. So that's my perspective. Become the best that you can in the world, and the world will compensate you and reward you very well. Millicent, you've got a great program. Yes, I knew you saw your name. Is there an AWS Cloud Architect exam? No. AWS exams are realistically speaking, totally unrelated to architecture in every way, shape, or form. They call it a solutions architect exam. There is no solution architecture in any of these AWS exams. These AWS exams are pretty much what is the name of a service and which AWS services do you do. Personally, when I look at the AWS exams, it looks like a sales exam to me. Teach you about all the AWS things that you could possibly do. Millicent, the AWS certifications, even at the professional level, don't include the reality. For example, they teach the AWS services such as WAF and Shield. I've yet to design an architecture that's going to use WAF and Shield. I'm always using a marketplace solution. They talk a lot about like a CloudFormation template. Everybody that I know got rid of CloudFormation templates and swapped it out with Terraform. So when you start taking these certification courses, like for example, all streaming, everything will be Kinesis, but half of the industry uses Kafka, Apache Kafka. So when you start taking these certification courses, they're going to be really biased around the single vendor services, and they're not going to be very close to reality. And that's the reason, you can't hire someone with the certification alone, because the certification doesn't give you anything close to the knowledge to do it. So Melissa just passed that AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, and then obviously you're doing our training, so you're going to be capable at Y, but no, any certifications really are related. Now, the Google Professional Cloud Architect certification, I will tell you, has some architecture in it, in that with the Google Professional Cloud Architect certification, they've got a bunch of these 3-page things that you have to read, case studies, and they actually ask you some architecture questions based upon the case study. Not so with the AWS one, but definitely with the Google Professional Cloud Architect. Personally, with the AWS exams, if you know anything about the network and the data center, they're going to be really hard, because you're going to have to try and forget everything that you know and pretend to do it the AWS way. The Google one is pretty much the way everybody does it in the industry. The Azure ones are much more likely related to the way people do it in the industry. AWS is a great cloud. Love AWS, their exams, the way they write their questions. I think the hardest part of an AWS exam is reading the questions, because they're written in a very wordy, very poorly written manner. They're written, I think that's the way they can make them challenge, because the cloud is so easy compared to the network and the data center, because all the work is done for you. The AWS way to make it challenging, I think, makes it hard to read, where Google's way of making it challenging is actually giving you architecture. So hope I answered your question there, Millicent. It will definitely be worth it big time for you. And I got to tell you, everything that I've ever done, I had to sacrifice for. And like I said in my life, and I talk about focus, there's a couple things that I'm really good at. For example, martial arts, I spent my life in. I knew that in order to be great, I had to pay for private lessons. So you know what I did? I gave up other things so that I could work with an expert hours per week, one-on-one, because it was going to make me great. So find time for the things that matter most to you. Opportunity cost. Remember, I keep saying that cloud architects need to be experts at business acumen and communication skills. It's because of this opportunity cost, because you can only focus your dollars and your time and your people on one thing. You can't have them do everything. So it is an investment. Everything that you learn, if you learn cloud architecture, you don't have time to learn DevOps. If you learn DevOps, you won't have time to learn architecture. If you learn networking, you won't have time to learn coding. It's a choice. How does a bank do it? A bank looks at the expected value of an opportunity. And if it's got two opportunities, one where you invest $1 and it gives you $1 back, and one where you invest $1, it gives you $2 back, you calculate it, the risk, you calculate the ROI, and you take the one that gives you the better return on investment. So that's what organizations do. That's what cloud architects do. We pick the technologies that give the customer the best return on investment. Be the cloud architect of your cloud architect career. Move your resources around, move your chips around so that you can do things. One time I worked with an organization in healthcare and they really needed a tech transformation. And you know what? They definitely had no ability to do it. So I started watching, they had no budget. I started watching what the people were doing. And it became clear that people were working back and forth to just a single part. And it was costing nurses like an hour and a half a day. Just going to an ice machine, you install a second ice machine, and all of a sudden, 2 hours a day is saved for 1,000 nurses per day. You've saved $50 million a year. Poof, overnight, just by watching what people do. And now the company's got some money to invest. So everything is an investment. What do you have to do? What do you have to shed? I can tell you some of the sacrifices I've made in my careers. I can't even begin to tell you. But I had a great career because I focused all of my time, my effort, and my precious financial resources all on one thing. That is the secret to success. Even if it's free, focus your time, your effort, and your passion on one thing. That's what's going to make it worth it big time. And Melissa, you are going to do great. I'm sure of it. And Jesse, feel free, Jesse. Fer, do you need to learn programming to be a solution architect? No. You're interested in computer networking and business management side. How can I use these skills further in the cloud? Okay, so Fer, cloud architects do not code. And guess what? Cloud architects don't configure. You're not going to see a cloud architect on the command line, the management console, the API. Cloud architects are systems designer. So you need to know no programming, no scripting. Half of the reason we actually do these things is when I actually train architects and I interview candidates and I tried to hire people. Do you know what I found? I found people knew everything other than cloud architecture. For cloud architecture is system design. So you must use system design. What are you designing? Network and data center systems. That's everything that the cloud actually is. So system designers need to know system design. System builders like cloud engineers need to learn programming. System designers don't program. Look at it this way. A building architect designs a building. A building architect is not an expert with a hammer or cement. A building architect is a system designer. A construction team builds the building for. So no programming. Now, if you're fresh out of school and if you've not been a business executive, you are going to have to learn some business skills. We can teach those skills. Those skills include, include ROI modeling. Those skills include calculating the the expected value of an opportunity, which is part of the ROI modeling process. Those including asking the right questions, knowing how to be CXO relevant, because the CEO needs a different message than the CIO versus the CFO. You need to understand the CEO's job and all these people's jobs and how to make them more efficient in their job. You need to understand the business that the customer is in. You need to be able to understand and analyze financial statements. You need to analyze what financial analysts in the industry are saying in a company. You need to be able to analyze what an organization's competitors are doing. These are the kind of skills. Then you need to learn how to sell. You need to learn how to present like an executive, and you need how to write like an executive. Those are those skills. So architect skills, design, and all those business things. If you wanted to work with us, we could easily turn you into a wonderful, competent, and capable cloud architect. But if you're not with us, those are the skills that are critical. Coding, not a solution architect skill unless it's a technical solution architect. But again, look at it this way. Cloud engineer, definitely. Technical solution architect is really a cloud engineer, but they're such a good cloud engineer and you want to give them a good title and you want to pay them more, you call them an architect. You call them a technical solution architect. And the reason you call it a technical solution architect is architects themselves are less technical. Then you have the solution architect, which designs the systems for one cloud vendor. Then you've got a cloud architect that designs the systems for multiple clouds. Then you've got an enterprise architect that does the business transformation piece with any kind of tech, cloud, non-tech, anywhere in between. And then you've got a business architect like me, which I've also done, who redesigns business processes. So architecture roles have no coding because they are design roles. And in the design world, we don't code. Jesse, if you want to bring in the next one. You're born in Nepal. That's fantastic. Doing your master's degree in Australia. I know exactly where you're at in Australia, and I've spent a fair amount of time there as well. Fantastic. Lokesh, what are the key things to focus on in soft skills? Here's the funny thing, Lokesh. I've had a lot of people that have worked in tech for a while, and they're like, "I'm not learning soft skills," and I'm like, "Okay, well then stay an engineer." I know that's not the case with you. The key soft skills are empathy, emotional intelligence, are the key ones, and that in and of itself is critical. But it's also the social awareness. It also has to pertain to reading body language. It also has to understand leadership. It has to do with bringing out the best in others. It has to be able to do with asking 1,000,001 questions without the person getting offended. It has to do with reframing what people are telling you. It has to really do with the matter of just delighting people. So, for example, if you're doing an interrogation, and mind you, as an architect, you're going to do an interrogation all the time. You've got to come across open-minded, non-judgmental. You kind of have to have an environment and a way about you that makes the person just want to talk to you. Like a psychotherapist, you got to go out there and just open up the questions and make the person talk. Those are the key things to focus on, because what are you doing? You can't design a system for which you don't have any information. So you need the soft skills to get the information. Now with the soft skills, you've got the information. Now you got to go back to your company and go build a team, because an architect doesn't design these systems by themselves. They may have 100 people on their team. So now, Lokesh, you got to go back to your company. You got to convince your company to give you a cloud architect, a cloud network architect, a cloud IAM architect, a cloud security architect, 10 DevOps engineers to build it, 3 cloud engineers, and a couple of SysOps people to maintain the thing after you're done to give you some input on maintenance. And then from there, you're going to have to do a proof of concept. You're going to need an engineering team to do it. So again, you've got to have the ability to sell the resources internally and get the resources. And then now you're going to have a team of 20 people that work for you, but they don't work for you. Meaning you're going to be leading a project and you're going to be asking these people to do things, but they don't work for you, which means you can't discipline them or fire them. So you're going to have to make them want to work for you. Soft skills and emotional intelligence. And then when things don't work right, you're going to have to smooth things over. When your engineers that are building this or doing the proof of concept for you are getting stressed out, you're going to have to learn to keep them calm. Otherwise, the productivity of your team goes down and your solution's not designed right, and you're out of a job. And then it has to come with, after the solution's designed, you're going to have to present it to the customer. And then you're going to have to convince the customer they need the solution. So you're going to have to put it in terms that the executives understand because they're writing the check. Those are the key things to focus on soft skills. It takes a methodical approach, and it takes a lot. And because it takes such a methodological approach, these are the reasons we work so hard and we have such a comprehensive program, because there's literally so many wonderful things we can actually do. But you've got to understand it, and you've got to be able to communicate it to get to any of these wonderful goals. So, Jesse, if you want to bring in the next one. Percy Duckworth. How do you develop business communication skills? You want to convince the CEO that your architectures are perfect. You are going to need some serious training as a rule. I went through about $250,000 worth of training for this. I'm not joking. Now, thankfully, my company paid for probably half of it, and I paid for the rest. But I have a massive business communication skill module in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. It is a massive module. And I worked very hard on creating a $25,000 program and giving it away very cheaply. I've done it because it matters to me, because I grew up poor. I mean, when I was in college, I literally I went to school from 7 to 3. I worked 3 to 11, for which case I used to get to work 45 minutes late every day. Then I worked 11 to 7, 3 days a week. And then every Saturday and Sunday, I worked 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for 4 years straight. And I did that just to pay for school, and I did it. And in the process, I also learned a lot of business acumen and communication skills along the way. Because when I was working in the emergency services as a paramedic, when I was paying my way through school, when people call 911 in the US or 999 in the UK, they're not happy because they're in pain. So I got to be very emotionally intelligent. So business communication skills, you can do 2 things. You can take our training, and our training will get you there, or you can take a course or 2 from Speakeasy, and that'll give you some presentation skills. You can take a Goldman course, and in that Goldman class, you can learn about developing emotional intelligence. You can take some sales skills training. I know nobody talks about Dale Carnegie again, but he really talked about very well thinking things from customers' perspectives. There's a Little Red Book of Selling that actually had some really good guidance. There was a good book on selling to Vito I can recommend, which helps teach some of the things. But the real key when you're dealing with sales is it's about solving customer problems and doing it in a manner where your solution costs less than the value they receive. What else, Percy Duckworth, do you need to know? So when it comes to it, there's a way to elicit information from people. So you've got to learn how to ask the right questions. That, by the way, takes a lot of time. And we teach that as well. So the next piece is, how do you create rapport? Learning how to do some rapport by design. If you have a state of rapport, or basically can find common ground, we tend to like a little bit of neuro-linguistic programming. We like a little bit of rapport by design, which we do training, and you can look up rapport by design. We also like a little mirroring of the person. Now, we also like the statistics from Robert Cialdini, who did all the work on persuasion. They evaluated people, for example, where if you asked me a question or said something to me and I repeated it back to you, the customers tend to be much happier. So we look at all of the behavioral science. So I would say if you look at sociology and you look at macroeconomics, you get to see how people actually do things in patterns of behavior. And when you start studying psychology and sociology and all these things, you start understanding people. And then you start understanding the parts of the brain that are active. So Percy, when you're doing these things, we have, for example, and we go a lot into the depth of the neurobiology. And there's a little more than we can do here right now. For example, right now we're relaxed. We're using the prefrontal cortex part of our brain to communicate. And we can communicate well. But if I was stressed right now, my nice, happy prefrontal cortex would be shut down. And I'd be dealing with my amygdala, which is like a crocodile brain. And if any of you guys have ever been angry or said something to someone in the heat of an argument where you really regret it, I know I have, that's when your amygdala is kicked in and your prefrontal cortex is shut down. So, there's that. So Percy, when it comes to development of this kind of training, this takes a lot of time. This is not like a short-term thing. I've got about 100 hours of communication skills training in my 250-hour program for my students. It's that important, literally that important to do these things, because it not only is the difference between getting you hired, it's the difference between an architect that's getting paid $120 and $300 or $350. That's how much of a difference the communication skills can make. So be great at that, Percy Duckworth. Focus all your time and energy on both the tech and the leadership piece, and you'll be the best architect in the world. And if you want us to work with you, Percy, we'd love to do so. And if you want to do it on your own, that's also great. But now at least you know the steps to take. Jesse, please ask any questions you want. What are the prerequisite requirements for my cloud architect course? None. My prerequisites are as follows: that you come with a good attitude, energy, enthusiasm, and you are prepared to do the work. If you do the work, you will be successful. I have everything put in modules and places. I've been teaching people how to get their first tech job or get promoted in tech for 2 decades. I love it. I know exactly what to do and how to do it. I've done it every day. Every day I get a call that says, I've been hired, Mike. I'm so excited and thank you. So I don't need any prerequisites, but what I do need is commitment. What I do need is to know that you're going to put in the effort. I can create all the content. I can have the plan. I can have the classes. And if you come follow the plan and come to the classes, you will win. But, I can't force you to actually do the work. So that's the thing. So my prerequisites are heart and mind and goals and willingness to work. If you do that, you will be successful. So those are my requirements. And Jesse, if you want to bring in the next one. It's 1:54 in the morning. Thank you so much for being here. Your feedback is so good and helpful. Thank you so much. Thank you for the live sessions. You're more than welcome. I am so grateful to be here with you and help in any way I can. Thank you for staying up. It's an honor and a privilege, and I'm grateful to have you here. Harish, can you know how cloud architecture differs according to industry, as you said, both health and aerospaces? Well, yeah, sure. So what are the business requirements of healthcare? Taking care of patients. What are the business requirements of aerospace? Flying stuff. So what is necessary in healthcare? High availability, high security, and getting access to information from a couple of sources of information that are contained in your same building. What are you dealing with regards to aerospace? First, you have to understand the aerospace industry. What stuff's flying around? How is it flying around? What makes the flying stuff more efficient versus not efficient? What do aerospace industries do? Do they sell products? Who do they sell them to? How do they sell them? Do you connect them via e-commerce? Do you have to create a remote access environment for sales reps to go sell these things? Where do the parts come from, for example, in aerospace? Are they made by a bunch of people that are all connected to the cloud so you can connect where you get your parts from? See how that's very different. In healthcare, everything's coming straight from the building. So there's that. Now, once stuff goes flying and it's around in the air, moving around or in space or wherever things are, you got to communicate it, right? What kind of networking is associated with that? What kind of information is coming in? Is it coming in via every 5 minutes? Is it streaming data coming in? Is it TCP data? Is it UDP data? Where does that data need to be shared? Does it need to be seen by 20 people at one time, in which case multicast is the right way? Should it be unicast? What do the customers want in a product? Is there a way, for example, in an aerospace environment to create an environment or an online business council where the customers can tell you what they want in the new product and help design it for you? See, these are just, I'm just brainstorming right now, but these are just two ways that two very different industries need two different architects. That's where industry knowledge works. You take that aerospace industry and healthcare, and we're going to look at you like you've got four heads. And for example, I'll tell you one of the things that I've seen in healthcare. I've seen engineers with no healthcare background design electronic health records. Crazy. I've seen electronic health records or medical records. We used to have paper, and then they switched to computers. And you know who designed these systems? Not medical people, engineers that didn't know the industry. And you know what interestingly happened? We had paper charts, and let me tell you, these paper charts were disgusting. They're this thick. You got stuff in there. You can't read it. You can't even find information about your patients. You know what? When we had paper charts, the medical errors were the 5th leading cause of death in the US. Then we digitized everything. Engineers, not medical professionals, created electronic health records. They coded them without asking what we do. Nobody asked the nurses what do you do, the doctors what you do, the physical therapists what you do, the pharmacists. Nobody ever asked. They just designed software packages. And when I was consulting in healthcare, they said, which one should I use? I said, you pick your workflow and then pick the package that meets your workflow. Well, none of these packages met anybody's workflow. Organizations in the US went from paper charts that were sloppy and ugly to these digitized electronic health records, and medical errors went from the 5th leading cause of death on paper to the 3rd leading cause of death on digital media. So we went from a paper record to an electronic health record and had many more people die. Why? The architecture was wrong. The architecture didn't support what doctors or nurses do. The architecture was designed by 9 medical people who didn't understand the industry. And medical errors skyrocketed because we now are using computers that have expert systems and give us decision support, consolidate information. Everything should be better, but it's not, because the workflow got changed by the broken architecture. People like me, when we had paper charts, we did 15-minute visits. 12 minutes of that visit, I was talking to the patient, asking questions. 3 minutes was writing on my ugly piece of paper. Electronic health records come out there. 13 minutes spent dealing with the computer. 2 minutes spent with the patient. In 2 minutes, we can't ask the right questions. In 2 minutes, we don't have the time to do our thing. But these computers are so burdensome. The stuff that came out there in healthcare is so bad that it takes 13 minutes of our 15 minutes to actually deal with the chart. We don't talk to the patient. We can't ask the right questions. We can't ask the right questions. We don't make a diagnosis. We don't make the right diagnosis. People die. Architect can't ask the right questions. They can't get the right information. The design is bad. It doesn't work. Doctor, ask the right questions. Be real emotionally intelligent. Spend the time with the patient gathering requirements. Make the right diagnosis. Architect, extreme emotional intelligence, executive presence, communication skills. Ask the right questions. Build the perfect design. That's why it matters, Harasina. And that's why I can show you different industries have different business requirements. It's that critical. That critical. Jesse, you want to bring in the next one? Lewis Coe, how do you study for SACO2? You have brief knowledge only. Anything you can do to introduce me? So, Lewis, I have two questions that I would say. The first thing to do would be learn the cloud, like in the kind of training program that we have. Because if you don't know what the cloud is, knowing and passing the certification is going to be 100% irrelevant. There is nothing pertaining in that certification that will get anybody hired without actually learning the cloud and learning the training. Now, how do you pass that exam? Well, you can pass it real easy. You can, on my channel, we have a completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate course. It's pretty much what you need to pass the exam. Hundreds and thousands of people have used that to pass the exam, and it is completely free. It's 6 hours. You can find it on our YouTube channel. Now, we also caught about a 15-hour AWS Certified Solution Architect SAACO2 training program very recently. Now, that is very deep and very modern and very current. We just did it 2 weeks ago. I'm going to tell you on that course, we did it in about 15 hours, and that course has somewhere between the Certified Solution Architect Associate and Certified Solution Architect Professional level training in it. And again, that is completely free. We also have a 100% completely free, and you can get it, the link is in the description below this video, a completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate ebook. And Andrew Brown from Free Code Camp has a completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate certification course. And guess what? For like $20 or $30 extra, you can go to my good friend Haman Sharma's Review and Prep. He has an AWS Certified Solution Architect practice exam. So for less than $50, you can get all of the training from 3 different sources, and it will be far, far, far more comprehensive than any of the other paid AWS training programs that are out there, and you will pass that exam with ease. But, Lewis, remember, that's just a certification. Certifications are extremely good at helping you get an interview, but it takes a different level of knowledge to get hired. But certifications are part of the interview process, and that will get you certified, and you don't have to pay anything for any of that training. But I do recommend getting a practice exam. Haman Sharma's Review and Prep is a great organization. Asha, how many hours do we need to spend for a week for Go Cloud Architect since you're working full-time as a software engineer? You know, Asha, that's a really interesting question, and there's really 2 answers for this. In an optimal world, I would take my students and they would all spend 20 hours a week combined of studying and taking my class, the 2 live classes, and they would do that for 16 weeks and everybody would graduate. And you know what? I've got a lot of students that do that in that time frame, and they all get hired. Now, Asha, I have other students that work full-time. And when I have students that work full-time and maybe they can only spend 10 hours a week in the training, they can still graduate, but they stay in my program for 6 months or 8 months. We don't charge more. We don't take the content away. Graduation of our students is when they get hired. So that's our graduation. So we let students stay in the program for up to a year. And our students can attend our courses for up to a year. And the reality is every time we update our content on a course like we just did, we push the free upgrades to the students that have the program. And we do that because we want to make sure that, whether one of our students is graduated and working, or one of our students is still in class, they can always go back to the resources that not only got them that job, but are going to make them great at that job. So that's really important that we do that. So I would say ideally 20 hours a week to get someone through in 16 weeks with a tech background. But got lots of people, they can't put in that many hours per week, so they just stay in the program longer. They still get hired. It's just a matter of, how long it takes to do those 250 hours of training for us and how well it takes for you to master it. Whatever that is, doesn't matter for us. All we care is that you get hired and you'll be hired in the end. That's all we do. So we basically teach the skills. We make sure you're good at it. And then we teach you how to optimize your resume. We teach you how to interview. We teach you how to negotiate a higher salary. And of course, we've got over 250 recruiters in our network. And we've got some recruiters that we speak to 3 to 5 times a week, like the great folks at IT Excel. I know many of you seen them. They come on my channel every other Friday. You'll hear from one of their CEOs or VPs or COO level people. We've been working with them for years. They've placed more of my students in great positions than I can possibly count. Love, love, love working with IT Excel. And they'll be here next Friday. This Friday, we're going to have a good friend of mine coming from Palo Alto. He worked at Dell as a leader. He worked at Alcatel-Lucent as a leader. We worked together at the old Cabletron Riverstone. And I try to give you guys access to the best and brightest technology executives and professionals I know. And I do it because when you hear from the best and when you hear from those that are highly successful with 30-year careers, they can give you the guidance to shape your career. That can maybe save you 10 to 15 years of wasted effort to get you straight to your goals. So I'm excited to do that on Friday this week as well. So Asha, I hope I answered your question. Damarla, you're having 6 years experience in different roles, starting your career in application support, cloud support, and currently doing infrastructure monitoring. That's good. Realistically speaking, all this stuff is excellent, excellent, excellent. What you've done in support is actually pretty helpful because in support, when people call, when it's not broken, they're, this isn't working and I need you to fix it right now, you horrible person. That's what you hear when you're in support. So when you're in support and you get something horrible and someone's mean to you like that, and you can say, I'm sorry, things are struggling right now. I'm here to help you. If you could please tell me what's going on, I'll do everything I can to help you. And that customer hears that and they go from being angry to thank you. That is the thing that people learn out of support that is useful for being an architect. So as architects, we don't do monitoring. As architects, we don't really do much of applications, but the support experience you gained, that knowledge of taking an unhappy person and making them happy, that is a very useful skill. And Damarla, that will be very useful. Those are one of the skills that I look for when people say, do I have a good background? That kind of customer service background, that one's a winner, and that will be very, very, very helpful. So your next question is, what are your chances if you want to go to a DevOps engineer in a big country? Well, you would have to become a software engineer first. So first you'd have to become a software engineer. And then after you become a software engineer, then you could learn the DevOps. And of course, you could get these DevOps engineering roles in big companies, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. The key is you'd have to be good at DevOps. So let me give you some secrets about transitioning careers. When you are not the ideal candidate, and here's what an ideal candidate is: 20 years experience, expert certification, and everything in those 20 years points to one thing. That's an ideal candidate. You know what happens when you career transition? You're not. But you know what? It doesn't matter. So how do you make yourself look more attractive? That's the thing. So let me give you the secret of the interviews. 50% of what a hiring manager thinks about you is your technical skills, competency, and experience. But that other 50% is your soft skills, emotional intelligence, attitude, energy, enthusiasm, presence. Okay, so where are our levers? We cannot, under any circumstances, get you to be a 50 out of 50 on technical competency without 20 years experience. Nobody can. It takes a minimum of 10,000 hours of experience in a little tiny area to be an expert. So we can't do that. But with good training, you can get to a 40 out of 50 in the DevOps world easily. But you can get to a 50 out of a 50 on the soft skills, communication skills, executive presence, emotional intelligence. So when we average it out, you can get to an 85 or a 90 as someone with no background or experience. Now, I've interviewed 5,000 people. There were 10 people in the 5,000 that scored above the 75. Every one of them was hired on the spot before they even left the building because it's that hard to find somebody capable. So I've only interviewed with 5 companies and I've been hired by all 5. And on 3 out of the 5, I was hired on the spot on the first interview because they didn't want to let me leave. And why? It wasn't because I was that great of an engineer or that great of an architect. I mean, I was a good architect, but it was because I was so likable and my attitude was so good and my communications were so good. And the customer, meaning the people that hired me, knew I cared about them and I would make their business better. So you want to do this? Don't worry about it. You, of course, can get hired by big companies. Of course. So make sure you're a good software engineer first, then learn all of those tools. And I'm not a DevOps engineer, but Git is one of them. I believe Chef is one of them. Jenkins is one of them. Spinnaker is one of them. There's lots of DevOps tools. Then learn Terraform, because the DevOps engineers are doing a tremendous amount of automation these days. Those are the things that are going to help you get a cloud DevOps role. Also, there is an AWS Professional DevOps Engineering Program. Strongly recommend that one. You probably should have a I Know the Cloud certification. So Certified Solution Architect Associate, probably Professional would be better. The AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate is kind of too basic for too many things. So I would say I'd probably do the Certified Solution Architect Professional as well as the AWS DevOps Professional. I would make sure that I learned DevOps, all the DevOps tools, make sure that I knew how to code, because this is an engineering position and DevOps engineers may need to code. So I would be and that's what I would do for the DevOps world. And in 3 months, I'm going to have a How to Get Your First DevOps Job program or less with Sandeep Das. I would also monitor what Sandeep Das on his YouTube channel and his LinkedIn page has to say about DevOps. He is a authority on DevOps. So much so that I decided to say we're going to do work together and create that course together, because he is good. So that would be another channel of free information that I would look to, Dharmala, to really focus on that cloud DevOps world. Louis Coe, what are some of the essentials of a cloud product manager? Kind of interesting. Whenever you're dealing with project managers, you're dealing with, there's two options. There's the task master, do this now. And there's the guy like me. Our deliverables are here. Jeff, you're a really important member of this team. Jeff, can you go do this thing? Because this is the most critical thing. Jeff, who do you need support with? Okay, you need these three people. Let me help you here, here, and here. And then, so there's two approaches to project management. Now, I will tell you, project managers have two perceptions. There's the perception of one, and one of them is the rough around the edges taskmaster. Now, the other perception of a project manager is someone that's more like me, that focuses more on the emotional intelligence, executive presence side of the world. Either are fine. Either are fine. But, either are fine. So I will tell you, you have much more opportunity when you actually have the soft skills, executive presence, communication skills. I will tell you, Louis, that not only is your opportunity greater, your salaries can be greater to the tune of 200 to 300% greater there. So the good project manager really is someone that's got good emotional intelligence and stellar communication skills, good sales skills, because you got to convince people to want to do the job without using a command and control. You do it by tomorrow. So there's that. Now, it generally helps to be a good project manager, and I've created a lot of cloud project managers. I've had a lot of people attend my program that were project managers or wanted to do project management but not on the cloud, and they've been highly successful too. The key is knowing what these things are. So, Louis, one of the things that I would look for in a good cloud project manager is either network and data center experiences, because if anybody's ever migrated a data center, they've already done a cloud migration. It's the same job. So I typically look for people that have some network and data center implementation or migration experience. Ideally, migration experience shows me it's a very good cloud project manager. And if you're actually training the cloud, I would say that you need to understand, what is the network, what is the data center, because you don't need to know it like an architect because you're not designing them. But, it's kind of hard to know that, you're going to the cloud if you don't know the steps of getting your data there, launching your virtual machines. So you're going to have to know some of that. So I would say entry-level knowledge of the cloud, like the Certified Solution Architect Professional, it would be enough knowledge. I consider that entry-level. And then I would consider a good program manager, project manager knowledge, getting things done on time, good project planning, the ability to get to the right stakeholders, and of course, that emotional intelligence, executive presence. But the more you know about the cloud or the data center, this is going to make this job much easier. I've had several of my graduates go on and do cloud project management work. Now, that was their desire ahead of time, and they've been very successful at it, and we can help you with that if you desire. But those are the skills, Louis, to be really great. For Jang Sherpa, I talked about different fields in the cloud. Which field is popular and with more jobs, and do you have any metrics? I don't search each week to see which one has it there. I do the following. I communicate with hiring managers and recruiters every single week, a lot of them. And I ask them to tell me what there's there. So I will tell you this is going to change every week. And why is it going to change every week? It's going to be based upon what's going on in the industry. Which fields are heavily investing in the cloud? Mostly banks, global retailers, and anybody whose business is completely dependent upon technology. They are all going to the cloud. Right now, we are in the infancy of the cloud, meaning less than 20% of all companies are on the cloud, and it's considered to be that about 80% of them will be there within the next decade. So there's that. Now, whenever you're dealing with how do you maximize your career, look for the careers where technology is the most transformational. So in banking, if you can process a trade, a big block trade, a nanosecond faster than your competition, that could be millions of dollars a year. So these organizations are going to invest anything in technology. A global retailer that's an e-commerce site that can increase the availability performance of their systems is going to invest anything because their tech is their business. A doctor's office isn't going to go to the cloud. Why should they? They can buy a server from Dell for $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,000, stick a VMware ESXi hypervisor on it or use KVM for free and do it all for $3,000 one time instead of paying, $300 a month every month for the next 5 years. So it's really based upon where is the transformation. And wherever you can find the transformation, wherever you can sell the transformation, that's going to be where the most work is. So it's not where is it? It's, part of it. It's like anything else. Where do you create it? You're the architect. If you're working for a company, the company is going to put you on sales calls. But if you had your own business or you were your own consultant like me, where can you make an impact? That's where I'd work. Where can I make an impact? In the banking space. Why? Because I worked on Wall Street and I know the banking space. Why? In the healthcare space. Why the healthcare space? Because I can practice medicine and I worked in it for a long time. The only other industry I know is the service provider space, because I sold product into service providers and was a principal architect in the service provider space, meaning like phone companies. Outside of that, that's not my area of expertise. I focus on those. But, there's opportunity everywhere. Everything is getting digitally transformed. Everything. So it's not about where the opportunity is. It's almost where the opportunity isn't. It's everywhere. Go pick the one that makes you happiest. That's the way to do it. For me, I find it more fun tuning a banking industry than healthcare. Why? Banks have unlimited amounts of money to spend, and all they want to do is the best thing in the world. Healthcare, I've got budgetary constraints. I've got legal issues all over the place, regulatory environments all over the place, crazy workarounds that I have to do because the applications aren't as good as I want them to be. Do I still do healthcare? Yeah. And do I have all my heart, my goal, my desire to transform healthcare? You can't believe how much. But it's more fun working with the bank where I can say, I need $1 billion for this. Here you go, Gibbs. So it's all fun. It's all great. Make it what you want it to be. You'll be successful either way. For Ed, best certificates for cloud architect or cloud engineer, and do you need network service to apply for a cloud architect job? Well, Fahad, here's what I will tell you. Best certificates, and again, certificates does not get anyone hired. Certificates will help you get an interview. The only certificates that I like right now are the Google Professional Cloud Architect, the Azure Expert, or the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. They're the only 3 cloud certificates I actually like from the cloud providers. I will tell you that I like the Aviatrix Multi-Cloud Network Professional. I will tell you that I like the CISSP. I will tell you that I like the CEH Master as a certification. I will tell you that I like the Cisco Certified Network Professional and the Cisco Certified Internet Expert. All of those things will make you better and build up your portfolio. I also like the Red Hat Certified Engineer or the Red Hat Certified Architect. Those are all good certifications for the cloud architect. Basically speaking, I generally like to see one of the 3, Google Professional Cloud Architect, Azure Expert, or AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. And I like to see a good industry one like this. Now, Do you need any network experience to be hired or to be able to apply? No, anybody can apply. Will you get hired unless you have knowledge of the network and the data center? The answer is absolutely not. And even if you had all of these certifications without the knowledge of the network and the data center, the answer is absolutely not. No. The cloud engineer, Farhad. With the cloud engineer, you could probably get away with the certified solution architect professional, maybe a Red Hat certified engineer, and by doing a tremendous number of labs on your own. Configure, 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 build, configure, build, configure, build, configure, build, configure, build, configure. And then Farhad, if you wanted to do that for the cloud engineer, you're going to have to learn to code unless you know how to. So you're going to have to learn Python, Node.js for an engineer, not an architect, for an engineer. There's a lot more engineering to learn and a lot more tech to learn for the engineer. You probably should understand some Terraform as well for the cloud engineer. Get good at scripting automation for the engineer. For the architect, it's the knowledge of design, it's the business acumen, the executive presence, communication skills, emotional intelligence. So, do you need network experience to apply? Not at all. Do you need to have good knowledge of the network and the data center to get hired? The answer is yes. We can train you easily to get you hired as a cloud architect, easily. Cloud engineer, we're in development of a cloud engineering program. I've got a really strong cloud architect that also has strong cloud engineering skills that's building a cloud engineering program with us, but it's very different than a cloud architect program. And that's why we're not doing it right now, because I needed a cloud engineer, because architects and engineers are very, very, very different skills. So Farhad, I am more than happy to get any deeper. Otherwise, shukran for the question. Jesse, if you want to go to the next one. From my perspective, where is the cloud industry headed? Well, right now, it looks like everything's migrating to the cloud, but there's been some big changes. A cloud provider made a business decision about a year ago. I'm not here to talk about whether it's good or bad. Ever since that business decision, everybody I speak to has said hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, no more single cloud. So industry perspective, everything is going multi-cloud and hybrid cloud, and that's become very, very obvious. So there's that. It's also become obvious that everything is moving to the cloud, and it's also become obvious that, like, people like me that have told everybody for the last years, hey, by the way, the cloud's a little bit less secure than the data center. People are starting to catch on. So what I can see is now in the cloud, people are like, wow, we need firewalls, we need IDS systems, we need malware protection, we need all of it. So there were, for some reason, people thought they could just get away with go to the cloud, add WAF shield and a network ACL, and they were going to be secure. Well, the world learned quickly that does not provide real security, and you secure a cloud like you secure NT enterprise. So there's that. So lots more security. That cloud gets hacked every single day of the week, and it's not because the cloud providers aren't awesome. They're amazing, skilled people. But if you are a hacker, are you going to hack me and get pictures of my cat and some video training? Or are you going to go hack AWS and get access to every customer they have, like a third of the internet? It's me, I'm going to go hack AWS. I'm not going to worry about hacking a small, low-value target. So lots of security headed to the cloud. But it's also, right now, everything's going to the cloud. And right now, everything's going to the cloud lift and shift, meaning the cloud, we are using it as a 100% data center with less performance than we started from and no cost savings. We've taken our virtual machines and the network and the data center and moved them to the cloud with upwards of up to maximum 10% savings, with organizations, some of them not achieving any benefits and savings, some of them costing them a lot more for lower performance. So I see all this stuff going to the cloud. Now what's going to happen is we're going lift and shift right now. And I like lift and shift. We will combine a combination of lift and shift with cloud native moving forward. Cloud native offering new services at a much lower cost. Lift and shift offering organizations safety and the ability to get on and off the cloud and bargaining power and not being locked in by any vendor. So where do I see it going? I see a lot more automation coming in the cloud, a lot more. And that's why DevOps engineers have a good career. I see multi-clouds with big complicated networks with high security environments. And that's why I see an unlimited supply of cloud network architects and cloud security architects. I feel it's so important Me, who my CCIE number is 7417, and my friend Imran, who's got a double CCIE and is finishing his third, and he and I are both from Cisco, although he also worked at Juniper Networks as well. We have a cloud network architect program because it's that important that's coming out, the cloud networking piece. So I see lots of cloud networking, lots of cloud security, and we train our students in all these things. An incredible amount of opportunity with regards to automation from the DevOps side. But from an architecture perspective, we have so many systems we're going to be taking from the network and the data center to the cloud and re-optimizing and re-tuning them. These are exciting times. I think it's going to take us 20 years just to get caught up to the moving the stuff to the cloud. And as soon as that happens, we cloud architects are going to be moving to the next cloud. Like I've said for a long time, I've been working on clouds forever. My first cloud was Frame Relay. My next cloud was ATM. My next one was RF2547, the BGP VPN. The next one was VPLS. It's going everywhere. So that's what I see. Kingsley, so nice to hear from you. Actually, you're not the other Kingsley. I've got a couple of Nigerian friends named Kingsley, but maybe you're Nigerian as well. You had your interview with Amazon last week for an associate DevOps consultant position a few days after you stumbled on your videos. I hope it went well for you, Kingsley. You will say the first 4 videos you watched had all the questions you were asked. Thank you for letting me know. What I do, Kingsley, is as follows. I literally go out there and I ask recruiters and hiring managers, what are you asking your questions? Plus, I've done 5,000 interviews in my career. So we constantly research what the industry is telling us to make sure that we can give you guys the most accurate things to give our viewers a competitive advantage. Now, our students, we work to give an extreme competitive advantage that no one in the world can compete with. But anybody on our YouTube channel, we try to give a competitive advantage over the competition to help you guys get hired. That's why I'm here. I've been on for 3 hours answering questions. I do it completely free multiple times per week. I do it to go out there and help you because I want you guys to all have the absolute best technology careers you can think of. Thank you so much, Millicent. We're so happy to have you here. You're more than welcome, NGWE. Jang Sherpa, can I talk about on-premise private cloud, hybrid cloud, and multi-cloud? Is full cloud better or hybrid cloud? Okay, so I don't think it's an either or. I don't think you're ever going to see a full cloud environment ever again. I think that's completely dead. I think that died when a startup was kicked out of a cloud provider because the cloud provider didn't like that organization's business. So I'm not going to say whether it was a right decision or wrong decision. I have no political views in any way, shape, or form, but it did happen. What happens when a cloud provider kicks a business out? It has CEOs running scared. Why are CEOs running scared? Oh my God, if they can kick this business out, they can kick me business out. Am I going to go bankrupt? Am I going to go out of business because I decided to go to the cloud? And that's what happened. And that's as soon as that happened, CEOs, and here's what a CEO thinks about. And I can tell you because I'm one. I literally think about today I have to go to the dentist. If on the way to go to the dentist, I get in a car accident and I die, who's going to make sure my students get hired? That's what I think about because I'm a CEO. I think about it every day. Who can take over for me? Who can take over for my students should anything happen to me? You know what a CEO thinks? What happens if they get hit by a bus? What happens if there's an earthquake? What happens if there's a fire? And now they got to worry about the cloud provider. So since then, everything has either been hybrid cloud or multi-cloud. I personally think the hybrid cloud is the best. Why? A data center can and will perform at a much higher level than the cloud. Here's the reason why. In the cloud, I get an EBS provision IOPS volume, the fastest one for 64,000 IOPS. AWS has a new ultra performance, 250,000 IOPS. I go to Best Buy and for less than $100, I can buy a Samsung 980 Pro drive that's got 500,000 IOPS. So realistically speaking, about 10 times better than a fast EBS volume for $100. And we can do, in the data center, we can do NVMe RAID arrays that gives us 5 million IOPS. We can get 30,000 megabit per second throughput on our drives. We can go straight to the GPU and build systems that have 8 GPUs and utilize all of them. We can build a network background that's got 100 terabyte connections together. And we can do QoS. We can't do any of the stuff on the cloud. It's all blocked from us. We can't do any of it. But guess what? We can sure do it at the data center. So when you take your data center and you install OpenStack or Nutanix, you've turned your data center into the cloud, which means you've got auto scaling and expandability as needed. And then that hybrid cloud can then go reconfigure things directly on the AWS cloud, Azure cloud, and Google cloud. Now you're there. A single cloud is a single point of failure. If you put all your eggs in one stock and the stock price crashes, you're poor. And if you put all your eggs in one basket and you drop the basket, the eggs crack. Well, when it comes to networking, we were never crazy enough to just use one service provider. We bought our network connections from two, not one, two. Guess what? Only using AWS or only using Azure, it's insanity. Because what happens when AWS gets hacked? What happens when they have an outage? Like Facebook had an outage. It happens. Outages happen. Facebook has some of the best network engineers and architects in the business. So does Amazon. So does Google. So does AWS. These guys and girls are sophisticated, but everybody has outages. So there is no such thing as a pure cloud. It's dead. You either have a hybrid cloud that lets an organization take advantage of the millions and millions and millions of dollars they previously spent, reutilize it, and connect to the cloud. Or you connect to AWS and Azure or AWS and Google, or better yet, look at the world this way. Think about Google, world's largest search engine optimization, and YouTube, second largest search engine in the world. Think about who has the best algorithm experience in the world, the best artificial intelligence in the world, the best machine learning in the world. That's Google. It's their whole business. It's search and ads, and it's all based upon machine learning. They've got so much intelligence in there, no one in the world can keep up with them. So what would I do? If I had a big data environment, I wanted to do some AI stuff, I'd connect to the Google Cloud for that. Now, what if I needed 128 core servers? I can't get that on every core cloud, but I can get it from Azure and AWS. So I might put my big, deep compute virtual machine infrastructure on AWS while leaving my having my my machine learning AI stuff on Google. And you know what? I might back up my AWS to Azure in case AWS has a hiccup. Now I've got everything. So there's boutique clouds that are good at specific things, but there's a world in the tactical community. The military people say 1 is none, 2 is 1, and 3 is better than 2. What do they mean? Single cloud, it's gonna fail. 2 clouds, you're gonna be good. 3 clouds, you're always good because something's gonna always work. So that's what we're talking about. I think that you either have to go multi-cloud or hybrid cloud. I don't think there are any other architectural design choices. I think that it is too dangerous to do anything other than that. And all my systems always have some backup and variation because you can't get high availability with single points of failure, and a single cloud is a single point of failure. Again, it's another one of these reasons that certification training is disconnected from what we architects do, because we architects need to have that kind of redundancy and availability. It's everything that we do. Jesse, are there any more? I know we ran a little late, but if there's any more, I can probably do 1 or 2 more. There's no limit on transitioning your careers. You can do it as often as you want. I've done it multiple times. I practiced. I was a firefighter paramedic. Then I was an ER nurse. Then I was a nurse practitioner with my own internal medicine office. Then I was a network engineer. Then I was a network architect. Then I was an enterprise architect. Then I was a cloud architect. Then I was an enterprise architect again. Then I was a cloud architect. Then I was a business architect. Change as many times as you want. The key is being great at what you do and taking all the background experiences from one career and reusing them in another career. That's the secret for career transitions. So I used to practice internal medicine. Here's what I did in internal medicine. Patient comes in, my throat hurts. Okay, your throat hurts, patient. I ask questions. What makes your throat better? What makes your throat worse? And then what do? I take a flashlight, a tongue depressor. I look in their throat. I see that it's red. I then, as a doctor, architect, whatever, nurse practitioner, whatever you want to call me, I say, what's the most likely cause of this sore throat, and I say beta hemolytic strep group B, and I give them amoxicillin. Now, let's do what I do as an architect. I go ask the client, what's going on with your business? After I ask the client, what's going on with your business? The next thing the client tells me is what their problem are. Then I ask the client, can I evaluate your systems? And they say, of course. Then I make a diagnosis and I make an architecture. So I just want you to understand the transition. Doctor, interview a patient. Architect, interview a client. Doctor, ask questions. Architect, ask questions. Doctor, assess the patient's systems. Architect, assess the company's tech systems. Doctor, make a diagnosis. Architect, make a diagnosis. Doctor, write a prescription. Architect, write an architecture. It's the same job. So you can transition as often as you want. So that's never the problem. So I just want to make sure that I said that. You want to be a DevOps engineer? Go be a DevOps engineer. How long is it going to take you is how hard and fast you learn and how much you study. I'm going to tell you this for right now. You're not going to become a DevOps engineer in a week. You're not going to become a DevOps engineer in a month. It's a big career. Now, I don't really know your complete background, but I got to say this. If you were first software developer, then DevOps engineer, and it could take a good year to do that, or in 18 months to do it. And that's okay because it's be well worth it. But it's not going to be a days. It's not a how many days thing. Learning any of these tools and being great at it's going to take you time. It's a matter of months or a year or even a little more to do it. Because, if I spend 250 hours of training to train a cloud architect, and what I do in order to train my cloud architects is I literally go through 100,000 pages of materials. I boil it down to what my students need to know, and I teach just that. But literally speaking, we've gone through at least 100,000 pages of content to narrow it down to what we give our students. And to be a really good DevOps engineer, you're going to need to go through that same amount of content. And it's a different content than ours, but you're still going to need that. So you can do it. I'm telling you, you can do it. It's just a matter of first learn your Python, in case you may already know how to code it, then know Node.js and know Golang and C# and all those other kind of things. Then when you're done that, you're going to have to learn your Jenkins and your Spinnaker tools, and then you're going to have to learn Terraform. And these are the things you're going to have to do. And it's going to take you some time to do it because you're going to have some mastery level. And then, like I said, I would probably get a certified solution architect professional because that's your basic intro to the cloud. And then I would get that DevOps professional from AWS, and that'll help. But these are the things, Damarla. It's not an overnight thing. It's going to take you some time and effort. Now, I will have a program coming out in 3 months that'll shorten that time from about a year to 18 months down to about 16 weeks by doing just this, taking that like 100,000 pages or so and narrowing it down to basically, 250 hours of videos. But it's going to take that. So, like I said, learn to code. After you learn to code, learn all the DevOps tools. When you're done learning the DevOps tools, then learn the automation tools like Terraform. Then when you're done that, build your communication skills, your interview skills, and then go interview for a job and you will get hired. But when you ask days, it's not days. A good DevOps engineer is $150,000 to $200,000 a year job. That's not days. That's not weeks. And in generally cases, it's not months. If you had a deep program that could compress it down to 4 months for you, it could be done. But if you're on your own and you're going to have to research it, it's going to take you a year, not days. But you can do it, and you will have a wonderful, wonderful career. And I strongly, strongly, strongly encourage you to do so because I think it's great. But you got to understand some of these things are not small. Tide, hey, Mike, you've talked to your parents about this program, and you're joining in January, February, and you're super excited. I'm excited too. I love working with younger people. I remember our conversations. Is there anything you should study or prepare for before joining? Yes, absolutely. So Tide, I'm going to be running a tremendous number of free training programs coming up soon. This Friday, I'm going to have a leadership discussion with a good buddy of mine who's a leader at Palo Alto. We are going to be doing an AWS Advanced Networking or a Ccnp course coming in the next 2 weeks. We will also be hosting some other kind of architect skill builder things coming up in the next few weeks. We'll announce it. We have a special announcement on Monday, November 1st. In between now and then, make sure you do our Certified Solution Architect training, both versions. If we do the advanced networking training, do that. If not, do the CCNA version. We're going to do a couple of other really cool training sessions coming soon. And when you're ready in January or February, you'll have a good baseline, because in each one of these sessions, we'll be getting you prepared for interviews and the way hiring managers think. So every time, certain things that I say, people call me back, and they're my students that take these classes. And I say, why do you take them? They say, I always pick up something and it helps me. So got a lot of stuff coming. Next week, we are going to have a media blitz with regards to videos. I have 5 of them coming out, and these aren't minor videos. These are really special videos that our team put like 20 hours per video in. Really, really special videos to help build your career. And then after that, we're going to do some free training, which you guys are voting on our actual website. So if not, go to the Go Cloud Careers website. The link is on that banner that Jesse is moving around. Get on that banner. Vote for the course that you want, and it's going to be a free certification course, and it's going to be a good one, and we'll do it live, and it will be lots and lots and lots of fun. So there's that. I don't know if I necessarily have any more time to answer questions today. I was here for you. If you've had a good time, could you hit the like button and type Cloud Hired so I can see that you're here? I see 28 people on the call. Hopefully 28 people could say Cloud Hired. I know you've had a good time. If you've learned something today and you feel it's useful, please share the link to this video with someone that you assume will be helped by this knowledge. If you've got any questions and desire to learn about our training, you can click on the link. There's a 20% coupon code my associate Jesse popped, and you can actually call our office. Jesse, if you can run the banner that's got our office phone number so people can see, it's +1 973 896 4889. And if you're international and you want to call us, we are on WhatsApp, and we return phone calls internationally via WhatsApp or via standard phone calls for people that are in the US or Canada. So I want to thank you all so much for being part of this session today. It's a true honor and a privilege to be able to communicate with you all. I don't take the opportunity to come into your living rooms or wherever at very lightly. We research and do everything very carefully to give you the best possible tech careers. So I love working with you guys. Thank you all for coming here. On Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. UK time, we're going to have my good friend Daryl Proctor. He's been a senior director over at Dell. He's run a large technical team at Dell, Alcatel-Lucent. Now he's running a large team over at Palo Alto, someone that I've known for 20 years, one of the best leaders in the industry. And I keep bringing in the best leaders that I know to help with your professional development. So please hit that like button. Thank you so much, and I will see you all very soon. Take care, everybody.